Get ready, traders. We're set to have a very busy day, and it's already been a super busy week. Just start here with a look at the S&P 500. We did slide lower in the last hour or so of yesterday's session as we got comments from Fed Chair Kevin Warsh during the FOMC press conference. As we know, the Fed actually ended up holding rates, but right now trying to climb back a little bit as the market digests mixed Mag 7's earnings reports. We'll get to that in just a second. Nasdaq looking almost identical to the SPY, and once again, it is worth keeping an eye on oil here because we have, as we know, continued tensions here between the U.S. and Iran. I want to mention as well here, guys, economic data is coming in fast and furious at 8:30 in the morning. You get PCE month over month and year-over-year core and non-core. It's going to be 4 prints to watch out for. Initial jobless claims, GDP, consumer spending, and consumer income. So that's a lot of numbers to digest. We'll take you through those bright and early at 8:30, so in just half an hour from now. But in the meantime, there's a lot to know about today's session as well as what happened last night. You've got the tale of two stories when it comes to Mag 7 earnings. Microsoft sharply to the upside, whereas Meta is still pushing lower after a report that was not well received by the market. That includes a pretty significant EPS miss and year-over-year EPS decline for META. Other earnings names in focus as of last night and this morning, so names that are day one earnings plays. Those include Robinhood, Carvana, Fortinet, Lam Research, Starbucks, Chipotle, Altria, Norwegian Cruise Lines. It goes on and on. There was a ton that happened last night to digest. There's also a ton we're expecting today. So good morning, Sharif. Very, very busy day yet again for these markets.
Absolutely, Adira. And the 30-year yield is at 19-year highs. Mainly the reason we sold off aggressively yesterday, the market, the bond vigilantes, putting their foot down here, possibly with Chair Warsh. If he's not going to do the cutting, they may do it on his behalf. So something to keep an eye on here. We haven't been this high since 2007. So right before the GFC, some food for thought. As Adira mentioned, it's a who's who in today's lineup. We got, as she mentioned, tale of two stories. Qualcomm dropping here pretty aggressively. ARM kind of flat. Lam Research doing quite well, almost up 10%. They're up 61% on the year. Starbucks really does continue to do well. They're up 32% on the year and up 6% this morning. CMG, don't look now, but they're flat on the year. They were decidedly negative. They're up about 8% here. Fortinet lifting up the group. They're up 10.5. NCLH reported this morning. Tough one, 6.5 in the negative. And then Vertiv, Adira, 4 3/4, looking decent here. And then you've got Carvana as well, looking possibly pretty close to SSR.
Yeah, Vertiv earnings day 2 should be interesting. I want to get your thoughts, though, here, Sharif. I know you totally called the Microsoft bounce. I guess what were your biggest takeaways? We'll get more into Microsoft and Meta later on in the day during our rundown, but what were your biggest takeaways from those Mag 7?
You want the truth?
Reports?
I haven't read the report yet.
Okay.
I plan on doing it soon.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited to hear about all of that when we get into that at 9 a.m. for our morning rundown. There are a lot of earnings and everything to get into, so definitely stay tuned. But let's take a look here at what else is on tap for today, because we mentioned this economic data at 8:30. Pretty much all of the economic data we're going to get is going to be at 8:30 today. Whole bunch of earnings that we already digested this morning, and then after the bell, you get a murderer's row of sorts. Amazon, Apple, Rivian, Coinbase, Reddit, Roblox as well. So there's going to be a lot to discuss pretty much all session, whether it's earnings, whether it's economic data, or whether it's anything with Treasury yields. But in the meantime, we're going to bring on Sean and Neil. Good morning to both of you, and happy Apple earnings day.
Ooh, okay. I mean, you could call today a lot of things. You could say Microsoft rally. You could say post-Fed bounce. Sharif mentioned the bond vigilantes out there. You know what? Everyone's talking about how they didn't raise rates, so therefore the bond market went crazy. Were we not talking about the fact that they were not going to raise rates? We knew that wasn't the case, but that's literally not the only thing they can do. He already hinted that all they have to do is contract the money supply by letting the balance sheet run out. Okay, that's their other lever. I mentioned this yesterday. He said it at the beginning, and that's another way they can contract. So maybe that's another reason why the markets went down. But this is really just all about earnings, and more earnings. Microsoft, well, I think one of the most impressive things was 43% growth in Azure. That was an absolute blowout. And the other earnings number that was pretty amazing was, I think it was like 8% for Starbucks same-store sales versus 5.4 expectation. They blew that one out of the park. Surprised that's not even double digits there. So a couple of really good earnings names. Lam, of course, doing really well. ARM and Qualcomm, both of them, well, ARM bounced a little bit, but both of them hit a little bit by the handset decline. Memory prices are kind of hitting phone sales, and it's dragging on both those names. A little arm catching a little bit of a bid, but the market's back up 1% here, so looking pretty good. And there's still a lot to get to. Like there is a lot of economic data at 8:30, and then of course after the bell gets pretty big. I mean, like I mean, we have massive earnings after the bell, and obviously headlined by Rivian.
Yeah, obviously big headline from Rivian. Yeah, no, look, when we made our quarterly picks or our semi-annual picks, I had Microsoft. We had sort of talked about, how we thought Copilot was going to be potentially a driver there, helping out with their Azure numbers. They had 30 million paid seats for Copilot, so that's a number that I think surprised a lot of people. And upside for Microsoft, right? We've seen really a battle back there in the software side of things. So I was just checking the account, like it's good, it's a good thing we have Microsoft, it's a bad thing we have Meta. And earnings will do very, very humbling situation because, we wanted to sell, we should have sold Meta at 640 when we first said it, and then we got excited when it got up here, hoping that it was gonna break. And this stock was $690. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 trading days ago. So what was 2 weeks or so ago, Meta was $690. Looked to have potentially, been breaking out maybe a little bit. I mean, looking to see if you could test 700. And now all of a sudden today you're down to 530 again. So just an absolute disaster for Meta, regardless of what those numbers look like. They even had like a retracement of CapEx there a little bit. But yeah, missing on the top there. We'll have to wait to see if Meta can rebound again today, down 9.7%. I mean, it's going to go SSR there. But yeah, so there are some, green shoots in the market. Again, we'll look to see if Google can try to hold up some of its rebound plays, which has been pretty good as well. If we think about Google's quarter was actually a pretty good one, and you get the bounce back there after it being, hit pretty good down to the downside, maybe there is going to be some relief rally. We saw Salesforce, they didn't report or anything, but you've seen a nice move to the downside. And some of these software names, sometimes they get beat up so bad that it's down 3% today, but that bounce from 155 up to 185, that happened pretty quickly too. So I just think that at some point, names like the Marvells of the world, I have just like I picked Microsoft, I also picked Qualcomm. So Microsoft up 10%, Qualcomm down 5%. So there's back and forth with that. But at some point, some of these names have just been beat so badly that they become good buys. And that's why we mark down 200 period moving averages and things like that. No matter what we think about, hey, maybe it's dried up a little bit here in the data centers and the chip race, but that's already reflected in the stock prices. So you're already getting hit to the downside, right? I mean, look at the Nasdaq today with a battle back there, up now 1.5%. I mean, what happened to yesterday's move down? We were all sort of panicking, like, oh my God, what is Warsh done, and all these kind of things. And here's what the Qs did. So they did this move, and now you're all the way back to where we were. Guess at what time? 2 p.m. So we're right back to as if that didn't even happen anymore. So did you sit there and buy some of those dips in the market yesterday? If so, being rewarded by a little bit of a move higher today, up 1.5%. So yeah, just kind of like, as Sharif said, maybe the TLT, we talked about that sell-off there yesterday, with yields rising, the price, of course, the TLT going to the downside there. And I think it's right. If the rates aren't going to drop themselves, then they'll take care of that in the bond market. And that's what happened yesterday, as they didn't really like the sort of non-talk. That was the one thing that I was hearing about last night, was that they were a little disappointed in the clarity and the direction. Powell used to put all the cards on the table. And then yesterday we weren't getting too much reward.
He said that's how he wants to be, though.
Yeah,
He kind of came out and said he thought things should be a little bit different from the very beginning, where you should maybe have a little bit less of the forward guidance. And he doesn't like the dot plot. So the whole leading the market with what you think is something we're gonna have to get used to with the Fed. The bond markets have always liked that little bit of certainty. Not certainty, but foreshadowing, an idea where things are going. So it's an adjustment period for sure. Just saw, everything is bouncing back here. Intel just broke back through 85. But one important distinction, we'll go back into the desk in a second, but one important distinction is, you've got some obvious, every time you have a Fed day, you've got those tops, tops and the bottoms. Obviously, we're going to be concerned more with the highs after the Fed. than we are the lows because pretty much everything is bounced off of them. But show me the symbols that are breaking out already above that Fed high, like say 87 here for Intel, which is also even lower than its opening range top. Like that's a little bit weak. But then you look over, like see Bitcoin. Bitcoin effectively triple topped on the Fed, double top there, but also go back to the morning, to even the pre-market, but we're above. So like Bitcoin is breaking out above those Fed levels. Obviously, a name like Microsoft is breaking out, like that's sort of obvious. And then don't sleep on some of the names that reported, not last night, but reported earlier in the week, right? Like a Bloom. A Bloom can be in play after that, after their earnings dump. But again, a name that's still underneath those highs. So if it couldn't break out those tops in this recovery, it's a bit of a sign, not that they're not strong because they're still bouncing, but a bit of a sign they don't have quite as much juice. But there's a lot of recovery names. So you got to look at some of the things that got beat up yesterday to see, are they strong enough, are they breaking out, or are they still underneath that resistance? One thing I haven't seen a lot of, usually what'll happen, I said we were talking about this yesterday, I'll look up in the chat and I'll see like there's one symbol or two symbols people are talking about the small cap. It's not. A lot of it's been, IREN's popped, BE's popped. They're looking at some of these.
IREN even popped?
Wow. I just saw it. I just saw it in the chat. It was like the last symbol that got thrown in there. No, but it's more of these types of names that are getting thrown around instead of the small cap gappers because there's so much movement post-Fed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, and I think that you can, small cap names are fun to trade, but they're just random every single day.
Exactly.
Like you get it popping out of nowhere. The good thing about, learning to trade, all different kind of styles is exactly what you're saying. A stock like an IREN can get there and get played today. A stock like an SMR, like this is probably better to trade than small cap names. You've gotten levels, you've got different things to trade with depending on your style. It's up 3.5%. Look at this move yesterday, right? So an $8 name goes down to $7.55. Follows the market, follows what's been happening in the broader market. Well, you get a stock like DFNS or something like that, and you really just look what this stock is, $95 today. Like, are you even kidding me right here? These stocks are nearly impossible. I mean, we have people, we have Bovin and everybody there in the chat, but like I've been here now trading for 25 years. And, we've seen this go up, down, and around, and it's very, very hard. We have, what's his name? A-Day trading there, Luis on all the time, talking about small cap names. And even he trades, the SanDisks, the Microns, and all this of the world because he realizes that there's so much more, not more, but there is opportunity in all of these plays. So I think it's very, very important to trade absolutely every single thing that you see out there. You'll see me on SkyQ. You see me yesterday. I had written on here Battle as one of the top. Here it's right here. Battle was a top name yesterday to trade. And you'll see me trading everything, and I think that's the right way. So if there is anything going on in the chat, guys, absolutely let us know. Like that's what I'm saying about DFNS. This was a penny stock a month ago.
The locates are a little more expensive.
Now it's $95. So it's like, yeah, sure, it's fun to trade and everything like that, but realistically, how many shares can you play on this kind of stuff? And you just got to be very, very careful with what you're doing because you don't need a whole bunch of shares to make some money on stocks like this, right? Especially if you could have just made millions of dollars if somehow you had held this all the way up. And Sharif actually had that story about, running into a few people and saying that they hold some of these smaller cap names overnight and whatnot. And, this would be a perfect example. So for every one person that makes money on this, there's about 1,400 that lose. So you got to be very, very careful trading these small cap names, right? And so they always look great on paper, but realistically, there's only probably a few traders in our chat right in here that are successful sort of small micro cap, I guess, names, which is what these are, right? I mean, when you're talking about small cap names, we like to, things have changed so much recently with the valuations, like if you looked up what a small cap market cap looked like maybe 20 years ago, as opposed to what they look like today. And then the mega caps and all that, it's a completely different game altogether. But yeah, look, I mean, tons of opportunity. That's what Adair started the show off with. There were so many names. Our watch list is rammed.
But this is like extra. The last 2 days, especially for the watch list in terms of busyness, there's just more in play than in earnings season. this specifically, like this Wednesday and this Thursday, and then of course you had to throw in the Fed. It's going to be a little bit different. For those that, if you're tuning in and you're like, oh, what is DFNS? You haven't really followed this story. We should probably preface it. They did a reverse split. I don't remember, like a little while back. I don't think it was too long ago. 1 to 120, 125, I think. It was pretty extreme, and their float is underneath 1 million shares. Like that's a lot of what's going on here. The locates to short this thing are jumping in price. Like early on, it was cheap, which meant a lot of day traders were probably trying to short this thing because it was cheap and there was no barrier to doing so. Now it's a little bit different. It's already up to 50 cents a share. If it breaks 100 again, it'll probably even keep jumping higher. But yeah, these can be absolutely insane. Sharif, outside of DFNS, because I haven't seen many, it was one for 125. Thank you, Mike. In the chat. Anything else you're watching today that's actually doing volume on a catalyst this morning? Outside of this, of course, day 4 play.
First of all, Neil, I just want to say something. The amount of people messaged me yesterday in the aftermarket telling me to get on my computer immediately and look at DFNS it's got to be a record there. You guys are just fantastic. You guys are the indicator. So I'm looking at NUWE, Neil. It's the #1 gapper in the market right now. It's up 127%. The breakout was on yesterday in the aftermarket. Broke looks like around 415. The high in the aftermarket, we had a double top at $4. So that was a clear level of resistance to me. This morning, we gapped up a little bit higher. 450 is the high this morning. As I mentioned, 126%. We're already doing a fair amount of volume, Adara, 26.1 million. Just by way of comparison, this thing typically does a little bit less than 1 million shares per day. So our vol here through the roof.
Lots of volume in the small caps, not as much perhaps in this next thing I want to talk about, but I want to go over here MasterCard earnings because MA did report at 8 a.m. So about 16 minutes ago, just after we went live here, they did beat on EPS, they beat on sales, a little bit of a push higher, but again, light volume here for MA. Let's talk about a different earnings name here though, Sharif. We have Qualcomm. Qualcomm had an EPS miss, sales beat. Guidance, though, kind of disappointing, especially on the EPS side.
Especially the margin guidance as well, which is going to get cut here. This is a very interesting report. So let's get right down to it. Their QCT, that's their chip division, okay? Earnings before tax, EBIT here, contracted from 30% to 26%. Really, the margins is the problem. Historically, it's about 48 to 50% target range. They're saying scarcity in memory and higher foundry costs are going to eat into those in the near to intermediate term. So expect that in the next earnings. And then the CFO, he disclosed that Qualcomm's modem share for the upcoming iPhone launch going to be markedly lower than expected. They were expecting about 20% of the modem chips in the new iPhones were going to come from Qualcomm, but we know Apple's been pushing their own C-class modems, and now it's going to be it's going to be below 20%, and then it's going to expect there's going to be a triggering of even less next time around. 50% are saying by the September and the December quarters is going to be even more reduction, so about 10% total upcoming. And then automotive revenue, they continue to try to diversify away just from handsets, and as we've seen with data centers. Automotive revenue hit a record at $1.59 billion. That's up 61% year over year. They've also pushed that annual guide for 2026 from $6 to $7 billion for non-automotive. And they've got a goal here, which is quite ambitious, $40 billion by full year 2029. We'll see if they can do it. Dilution. They did acquire a company, $3.1 billion. They acquired a software company called Modular on July 28th. They issued 18 million new shares, so share dilution there. And then they had some, non-operational tax windfalls. So these are not going to occur again. They got about $5.7 billion in profits out of 12.38 that are a non-recurring item. And that's apparently as a result of the change in the corporate tax rate that they were able to make that.
Qualcomm, guys, are you looking to trade this today?
Well, maybe, yeah, but it's not for a day trade, I don't think. It's not the best volume always, but like these guys are gonna happenstance some way into a low single-digit PE at some point here. It looks like very similar to ARM. A lot of those points, like it's just get hit when handset goes down a little bit, and you're trying some diversification. ARM doing it in a different way, of course, with chip business, but that's going to be some future revenue which hasn't really gotten there yet. But I meant to already be on a weekly chart, but that's still on the daily. But if you look at this one on the weekly chart, it is coming into, again, I mean, obviously 125 to 130 stands out like an absolute sore thumb on this stock. And you'd be like, okay, well, sure, anyone would want it to bounce there. But you can also look here, like the 200 period on the weekly, like that has been a bounce spot outside of the 125. So it gets there at a 150. It gets there today. And if it doesn't bounce there, I think you're looking at this 125 to 130. Like it's either this level holds or we are looking for that 125, 130, which looks pretty appealing for them.
Yeah, I mean, I again, another play that I've liked and I've been recently getting into, Qualcomm. I mean, not happy to be down 5%. I mean, obviously it could be a lot worse. Missing on their guide, I think, is the problem, right? I mean, good revenue beats, so we're happy with that. I mean, part of the reason to get this was the automotive there. But we put this back in the portfolio here at 170. We talked about making the call with Microsoft. We also made it with Qualcomm. I thought the 200 period was a good spot to think about getting long, but then, Armageddon sort of happened, and now we're down pretty good into that level that Neil was talking about, this 130 to 140. Generally, you don't want to put more money to work until you get back up to those levels, breaking near that 200 period moving average. But if you go into here, and I got to actually open up a workspace here and call up QCOM right now, you're going to see, as what Neil was saying, this is why it's very exciting to me as well, is this forward P is 13 right now, the current P of 17. I don't know if this is including yesterday's numbers, but at the end of the day, this is good valuation for what's a stock that's been around forever. Seems like it was getting its love back into it, only to have this happen. So right back into April lows is maybe where we're going. There's been a lot of stock that's looked like this. I just showed you Marvell. You can look at what AMD's been doing recently. Nowhere near what Qualcomm has been hitting to the downside. But I sort of equated a little bit. We've seen Intel make that 40% move down. Now it's Qualcomm's turn. Marvell's doing it as well. There's a bunch of names that continue to get hit where we look for some rebounds in. Right, so you got to give Qualcomm a little bit of love here, just for the day. Let it settle down and see if it can get back up to the upside again. A good quarter, nothing wrong with it. I like the automotive segment there, but increased costs is the problem. They clearly there in their report, as Sharif just mentioned, blaming the higher cost of input. So when you're making these chips and you're putting out these products, especially what Qualcomm's trying to do in the PC game, as these components get more expensive, Qualcomm gets hit, which is why that EPS continues to slide on the expectation, right? It was 220 to 235 or something, when 235 was the high end of that look. So yeah, downside 5%, could be worse on Qualcomm. You saw ARM yesterday. Look what ARM's done in the pre-market here, right? I mean, they got hit. ARM's now way back up. Yeah. You could have got that was yesterday, $214, $215. And even this morning, this was at 220, at 7 o'clock. Now ARM's at 240. So you've just gotten 10% of a move in ARM just in the last hour and a half right there. So what's up with that? So they've already digested the number. They didn't really like it. It was getting hit. And then it was flat, at the end of the day. ARM gets hit yesterday. And then all of a sudden, the market just says, oh, maybe things are okay all of a sudden. And this thing goes from 215 up to 244. So, you want to talk about, we obviously just mentioned small cap names moving around, but look at this. This is a pretty monster move. So I'm just wondering if we're a little cooking almost too much right now in the pre-market. A lot of people buying these dips. Let's see if it winds up holding. I think we all hope that it does, because our portfolios look a lot better now than they did an hour ago. So I'm not sure exactly the macro reason for all that. We do have, as Adara mentioned here, not only is it a big day for earnings and the covering of all the earnings, but take a look at this. If you look at our watch list right here that we put out every single day, these are the economic events coming. We have GDP coming at 8:30, initial jobless claims coming at 8:30, PCE all over the place today as well, consumer spending. So 8:30 is just a barrage of numbers. I think we're supposed to have Mitch on so we can see what he thinks about some of the recent calls. But for right now, it's going to be a big data drop at 8:30. So, we'll have to wait to see where that takes us for now. Just seems like the market's a little heated here in the pre. So we'll see if we can settle down. Hey, not complaining about it. I mean, we want to see more money pumping into these names, especially at these lows. So we'll see if there's some get up. 5 minutes left until those numbers, and about 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, until Joe at the big screen.
All right, guys, good morning and welcome. Let's take a look at some of the derivatives activity from yesterday's session. Guys, we're going to kick things off with a lot of Microsoft here today. Now, at this $425 strike price, there's going to be a couple of strikes we're going to be looking at here. So first things first, 7,500 contracts still open, but 8,200 on that specific zone opened and closed on yesterday's session. Now, we're sitting on a $50 spread. Don't forget, these are going to be expiring tomorrow, guys, all right? So our delta, relatively cool, and our gamma exposure as well. But one thing that we want to focus on is the at-the-money IV and how far can we climb, all right? So this was the first supply zone that I identified, but I also want us to focus on this one as well too, okay? So it's only 5 points away, but you can see the open interest is substantially more, all right? So it's like if you have the ability to absorb and what we've seen on this first strike, then I do believe that we may fall into some resistance at the following zone, okay? So 7,500 here, and then we move on to the next strike price with 15,000 contracts for $430 at that $430 strike. It's quite a bit of size and supply at that level. Now, as for the volume, 9,800 contracts opened and closed on yesterday's session, and then we can see our spread. There's a pretty big difference between the two contracts, okay? We're sitting at $50 on one side, and then as we move higher, the spread really starts to tighten up here, guys, okay? So $2.19 versus $1.93 for the collector side of things. And then also your delta exposure going to be cooler because we are getting farther away from at the money. Moving forward, you can see our gamma exposure sitting on the 007, but our at-the-money IV is going to remain the same. Now, as for this specific contract, guys, we're only a percentage point away from the 425 and the 430 contract in value depreciation, okay? So 36% to the downside and 35% to the downside on the 425 contract. Let's keep an eye out for this $430 marker via Microsoft, all right, guys? Now, moving forward, $500, what are we talking about here, Sharif? With Meta, that's a ways away. Well, this is where we're going to find the most amount of supply, all right, guys? 5,300 contracts, that's the base. It is a more expensive underlying asset and doesn't typically have the most volume, but it did fall onto the volume scanner yesterday, okay, guys? So we're going to keep an eye out for this potential floor here within Meta, and you can see how cheap these contracts are considering the value of the actual underlying asset is extremely out of the money. With that being said, out of the money means cooler delta. We're only sitting on that 6-cent delta, guys. So keep that in mind. And almost no gamma exposure, but be cautious just in case there's a free fall. All your Greek metrics will start to increase, okay, including your at-the-money IV, which is sitting at 143%. Moving forward, let's take a look at the actual put contract itself, going from $1 around these lows to a high of around $1.99. So almost a 100% gain right there. We'll call it 95 flat. Let's see if we can hold on to this zone. It will get really ugly if Meta falls to $500, but I would look for this floor to hold up. Until then, let's see if we chop around and find some form of a recovery in META. Let's send it back to Neil and Sean.
Thank you, Joe. We're a heck of a lot closer to that 500 than we were yesterday on Meta, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Like 525 is still, it's a good 5% away, but we're down 10 points and it's pretty close. Like that 500 object is looking a lot closer in the rearview mirror than you think.
Joe said, oh, well, 500 is still quite a ways away. And Neil and I looked at each other and was like, yeah, maybe it's about 15 minutes away.
Well, we were at 600 yesterday.
Right yeah, so down to 525. And if you break through this 10% mark, which it's going to do, interesting to see how this is going to trade off the open. I do think there's a bounce back potential here for Meta. I mean, obviously it's going to be expensive watching out for these options, right? But yeah, good look there, Joe. I mean, it's always great to look at names that are moving around, and no better one today than Meta, obviously one that's held in a lot of portfolios. All right, 30 seconds away. Let's go back over the desk and get ready to digest this big earnings drop or number drop.
There are a lot of numbers here, guys. So we've got PCE year over year. We're expecting 3.7% versus 4.1% prior. Month over month, negative 0.1% expected versus 0.4% prior. Core PCE year over year, 3.3% forecast, 3.4% prior. Core PCE month over month, 0.2%. expected versus 0.3% prior. So we're actually expecting cooler prints for all 4 of these PCE numbers. You're also looking at initial jobless claims, 200,000 is the forecast versus 187,000 prior. And GDP here, 2% forecast, 2.1% prior. Initial jobless claims, what I'm seeing first year, 197,000. That's going to be a little bit below the forecast of 200,000. You're seeing core PCE, 0.1%. That's going to be below the forecast of 0.2%. You've got personal income here, 0.2%. That's going to be a little bit below the forecast. Same with personal spending of 0.3%. You also have here PCE year over year in line, 3.7% versus 3.7% expected. PCE month over month, negative 0.1% versus negative 0.1% expected. And then core PCE year over year, 3.3% versus 3.3% expected. So in line prints, which of course cooler than the prior print for PCE year over year, month over month, and core year over year. Again, as I mentioned earlier, core PCE month over month, 0.1%, a little bit cooler than the forecast of 0.2%. Market not reacting too much to this here on the Nasdaq right now, just kind of inching near those highs, and GDP as well, just to go over 1.5%. That's going to be below the estimate of 0.2%. Probably that GDP print, the biggest shock here. Before we send it back over to the guys, let's take a look here at another earnings name. I know Sean mentioned the name that this stock has had. This one just continuing higher now. ARM on earnings in focus here. What is your takeaway here from this ARM report?
Yeah, it was an earnings beat, Adair. I mean, they beat on revenue. Non-GAAP EPS did quite well, but as true to form, we have to talk about GAAP EPS and non-GAAP EPS. So let's do that. Expanded non-GAAP EPS, that is 41.2%. GAAP operating margins, though, I'm talking about a GAAP operating margin right now, dropped to 7.1%, and that's down already from 10.8% last year. They're trying to blame it on stock-based compensation, which they took a hit of $343 million on, and about $90 million in related employer taxes, and that consumed 33% of their revenue. So a lot of expenses going on. And despite the record cloud demand that we're seeing from hyperscalers, management actually dialed back their full year royalty growth forecast from about 20% to they're saying the high teens, and high memory prices again being kind of the real reason here. And they're saying we're also not going to have that many handset volume sales, which we kind of already know. We knew that the handset volume sales were going to be a little bit light this year. Pipeline demand for the new ARM AGI CPU. Remember this whole thing that they had a few months ago that they have an AGI CPU? It did have a lot of demand, over $2 billion in orders. They were thinking about $1 billion, so well oversubscribed there. And then they see it even growing further when they access it in the Chinese market. Yes, this will be allowed to be sold in China. And in fact, Adara, about 30% of the company's revenue now is coming from China. A lot of the chips that they have are actually allowed to be sold there, which is interesting because they're not that advanced, but we see they're being used in the cloud space now.
Yeah, that ARM look in China is pretty fascinating. Before we go back to Sean and Neil, I just want to go over these numbers one more time. So you had inline PCE for 3 of the 4 prints. Again, PCE year over year, 3.7%, month over month, negative 0.1%, and core PCE year over year, 3.3%. Now, the one that was cooler than expected was core PCE month over month, 0.1% versus 0.2% expected. You had consumer spending and consumer income both slightly cooler than expected. You had initial jobless claims, 197,000, below estimates of 200,000. And you had GDP here, 1.5% versus the forecast of 2%. So that's a little bit lower than we were looking for here for the GDP. But that's a quick recap of that big 8:30 a.m. economic data drop as we send it back to Sean and Neil.
Yeah, you don't like that GDP number. I don't know. The market doesn't seem to care that much, but that seems like it. That should be the headline so far, at least. But very, very muted drop there in the futures. But we had a bunch of super chats while we were just with Joe, and of course we just had the numbers. Tisha Perkins talking about NUWE. That is a big time mover. It's your main focus for move to 510. Well, look what it just did. It just broke through 510 through to 560. So double top breakout at 450. Always want to make a big look. You had news there. It's a micro float. And remember, with all of these, you do have the whole history of the stock where it usually has reverses and dumps and pops and dumps. So some of these levels don't matter after you do a reverse split. Obviously, you got to go out and look at like something that has a split adjusted. Like I'll pull up here an E-signal where it's going to be split adjusted. Then you can really get to see that there isn't too much juice at any of these levels down here. If it fills in the entirety of the gap, it looks like $6 way back here could be a little bit of something. And thank you for that super chat. We have another one here from Alan. Alan's asking, does Tesla break out today? You know, lost in all of this Fed palooza and earnings this week was the abject disappointment that Tesla was, or I guess is. I shouldn't say was, because it's still very much disappointing. I actually thought on this move down we were kind of headed more toward the 280 level, but for now 300 is held. So like it's a psychological number. That's a wipeout bottom. Obviously yesterday on Fed, where 300 was the low, pretty much in the most of the session. But the problem here is, like, you see the declining since the earnings. It's like lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. It has yet to make a single, like, forget about breaking out, because to me breaking out would be taking out 325 and filling in the bigger part of the gap. Like a small breakout would be 310 trying to get to the 25. And even if it did that, you would still be looking at an overall downtrend. Like if this bounce here can't even get past the 25 area, then you just have like a muted bounce. But for a day trade, the 310s where you got to look. It just seems like there's a bunch of other stronger stocks that are closer to a bit of a breakout there. Oh, and there's another one. Oh,
Okay.
Oh, this is, I just saw. Michael P. DeRider. Hummingbirds are the vampires of the flower sector. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's right.
we'll just let that one stand by itself. A little stock talk and some little introspective.
Yeah, we should get one of those every day. You know, where
We
it
should
just
put a
makes you
like
think-
bumper sticker
Yeah, just makes you
moment right
think
there.
about things there. So, as the hummingbirds suck out the pollen and whatnot, and we get to figure out what vampires. I mean, it's actually a pretty good. That's a pretty good metaphor or whatever.
Yeah. Thanks,
for that.
Mike.
So thanks, Mike. That makes a lot of sense. We like that one over there. But yeah, no, just looking at a few things. I was looking at this DRAM ETF here, and I was going to be adding this to the list. But we are really starting to go now as the market extending through. So those numbers come out. Doesn't seem to be hurting the market whatsoever as we start taking out some of these new highs. So there we go in the Nasdaq, up 1.5% and looking to claw back everything from yesterday. It's roughly where we were at 2 p.m. yesterday, and let's see what the market wants to do today. Right, we've already come through earnings, which they weren't that great. I mean, there's a few names that we talked about Microsoft. Definitely helping out the Nasdaq here this morning, and then with an all-time high take of Apple as well. That was yesterday. Have to get back up to 340 again, but this is reporting after hours, so maybe we get a little bit of a push forward here with Apple as well, down 1% with the market up 1.5. So interesting to see. Is this sort of a look forward into potentially what could happen here tonight with the market up 1.5 and Apple down 1? So I don't know, looking to pick up some Apple, I think, if it continues to make this move lower, and trying to find some levels where you may be able to hold. It's been such a strong stock. Like, to think that the Nasdaq would be up 1.5% today and Apple kind of looks like this. This is a couple-day chart here on a 1 minute. It's not great for Apple. So we'll have a look to see if there's some weakness or if we're going to buy some dips over here. All right, it's 8:38. We were scheduled to have Mitch on. It doesn't look like he's going to be coming through right now, but hopefully comes through soon. And we'll go back to the desk, and there's lots to talk about today, obviously, as we go through, parse through. Make sure you get the watch list. Link is in description below, so make sure you do that. We want to say a big shout out to everybody that, of course, is here with us today. Make sure you're either on TikTok, on YouTube, wherever you guys are. We've already shouted out a few of you guys today. What's up to Los Polos? Whether or not you're giving a super chat or not, Neil and I definitely trying to watch the chat. It gets pretty busy though. Yes. Sometimes we come back and there's like, oh, you've just missed 5,000 messages, and that's not even, and that's the truth. What's up, Ozan, Buvin? Everybody's here. Old Wise Trader. KC526 is here as well. B. Cameron is here. Just thanks to everybody, no matter what you're on, whether you're on TikTok or on Instagram. Amare here as well. Juan Padilla. We always say, what's up to Juan Padilla?
Shout out to this name from TikTok.
Yeah.
Dad's Market Stats.
There we go.
There we go. Get that. You just get everything you like in one place there. Thomas Shaw, I want to shout out to you. Another viewer there from TikTok as well. So we got them all. But actually, it was Simpson's. Simpsons Dr. WebMD. Okay, now, see, there's interesting names, there's fun names. Come on, put a message in, please, and tell me what's that all about. And Microsoft versus the Qs. Microsoft is winning that battle, but it is worth noting that since we had the numbers at 9:30, Microsoft has kind of lost VWAP a little bit and is pulling back. Big quarter. This could be an interesting one if it tries to fill in the gap. There's a 415 level. That's pretty deep, but there's a 415 level on the daily that if it tries to fill in the gap. I don't see how far this could really fall if it tried to fill it in. But yeah, there's a lot to look at, and thanks for all the messages there. I just had another one, Yeti, in there. Shout out to you. Let's get back onto the desk, and we have a lot to cover.
Well, I think, it's the morning. We should take some time to sip some caffeine and look at Starbucks here. Before we get to that, I do want to mention a report here on Microsoft. Nothing massive, but Nikkei reporting here that MSFT, Microsoft, of course, at earnings day one play here, is pondering an open weight AI as we see these Chinese models gain ground. So that's an interesting look for MSFT. If and when I see anything else, I'll keep you posted. And stick with us through the rundown to hear more about this Microsoft earnings report. But in the meantime, as I hinted at a couple seconds ago, let's get back into this Starbucks report, because SBUX, this was actually quite the solid quarter. And this comp sales growth, which is sometimes an issue for Starbucks, that was not an issue this quarter.
No, and when you see exactly what it came with, you'll be even more impressed. Let's talk initially, but their earnings beat $9.32 billion, beating expectations. Adjusted EPS also beating expectations, and they upgraded their full year EPS forecast. So check, and more check. Let's talk about their China divestiture. They kind of earmarked this last time around. 7.9% surge in global comparable store sales, even though they divested a great majority of the stores that they have in China. They're not going to be doing this at a corporate level. It's going to be a joint venture now with privately owned entities. So they won't be realizing revenue from those numbers. So any increase in comparable store sales are not going to take those joint venture numbers into account. They're going to be reported separately. Something to know there, because that 7.9 is without them. 7.9, yeah. Traffic-led recovery as well. Unlike prior quarters when same-store sales were kind of artificially inflated because they increased menu prices, here you had a double whammy. You got more foot traffic and you got more price increases. Usually it's just you have price increases, so you see more revenue from same-store sales. No, you got both here, so it's very good. And then tax refunds. We know about this. We knew that they were coming. Operating margins in the channel development division rose 700 basis points because they got reciprocal tariff refunds. They expect to get more in the near future. And then last but not least, they're paying back a lot of their debt. So some of that money that they got from their China store divestiture, you thought that maybe they'd buy back shares or something. No, what they did was they paid off $1.3 billion in debt. That reduces their equity to debt ratio. That's a good look.
Yeah, good look here for SBUX. As we know, Chipotle also reported. We don't have time to get into this, but this was another solid report from a former Brian Niccol name. Of course, Brian Niccol, current CEO of SBUX. I believe this one you had a double beat. So nice look here for Chipotle and for Starbucks. Are you looking at any of these names today, guys?
We're definitely going to be looking at some of those names, specifically Starbucks. But you know what? When it comes to looking for setups, when looking at making your reads, we see it in the chat. We see it all the time. You're looking at the right thing. You're looking at the right setup, but you got the wrong size. The truth is, you got the skills, but the count's just too small, and Trade Funder's changing that. 100,000 for stocks, 25K for options today. You get to keep 80%. You get paid every single Friday. You are not risking your own money. So $9.99 to start and refunded on your first qualifying payout. You can start in an hour. No evaluation, no background checks. Just you and the size you've been missing. Scan the code on your screen, that QR code. It's tradefunder.com. Choose stocks or options. Want to shout out to Trade Funder. Get paid every Friday. It's Friday again. Saturday, Sunday, what? Shout out to Trade Funder for sponsoring this portion of the show. Hey, of course we're looking at Starbucks. That's like everything. There was no ambiguity. Everything was pretty positive, and if you looked under the hood, like some of those numbers are a little bit more impressive, especially when you put them in a bit more context. Yet, Starbucks is no longer breaking out this it's actually 109 change, but you just call it 110, which it was in the aftermarket. It was pretty clear on the daily. Like the daily, it was a break from here, and then you kind of go into February of last year with those highs at 116. But it's still selling off, interestingly enough. So you're not looking as good before. It's the 110 you want to be holding above. That's the big level on the daily. Still, Starbucks is notoriously low volume, pre-market, wide spreads. It's an 80-cent spread right now, even as I look at it. Like you might see, like you can see like 50s, 108.50 there, but like the spread is actually 108.20 to 109. So this is the kind of stock that you actually have to see the market come in at 9:30, get a better sense of where it's really going to trade. Because if there's no buyers above the 110, then it's not really the breakout that you're looking for on the daily. But once it creeps back above that at the open, then Starbucks can get going. Great Q. Momentum, absolutely fine. It's in a very clean uptrend above both major moving averages. There's a lot to like there, except for currently the spread in volume. You got to wait till after 9:30.
I'll give you another one here. What about Dutch Bros? These guys are going to report next Wednesday. Things are going well for Starbucks, potentially going well for Dutch Bros. Starbucks beats on the top and the bottom and a better guide. Dutch Bros right here, $64, holding this bid and looks to get going, right? I mean, if right here, you might be too late on this if you wait for earnings. If they come report anything similar to what Starbucks just did, then they probably with a little bit more, earnings growth potential because, they don't have the expansion, obviously, that Starbucks does. Starbucks is one of the largest chains in the world. Dutch Bros, if you're looking for some get up in the space, we already mentioned some Chipotle. You got Jersey Mike's coming today. Jersey Mike's going to be the 9th largest franchise, I think, food franchise on the Nasdaq or in the market once they IPO. But yeah, Jersey Mike's coming today. So anyways, Dutch Bros, yeah, good little upside take here. Waiting for earnings report next Wednesday. Looks like it's coming Wednesday after market close, August 5th. So I think this is another name that you could look at that could catch, some positive shrapnel coming from Starbucks. So Dutch Bros, another one of those names that I think is a radar name now that you've seen the numbers from Starbucks. And it's not even, as Neil mentioned there, it's not even like Starbucks. Look, it's a great name. It's moving high. 4% is nice. I think the expected move was higher than 4% yesterday for Starbucks. So that pullback right there, not great. You like to see it try to hold some of those bids, but hey, it's still better than we could expect. Both those names, Dutch Bros and now Starbucks, firmly holding that 50-period moving average. Will we come back and test it? Doesn't look like that today with the Nasdaq still screaming higher. So yeah, all good. So far, so good this morning. But remember, guys, just like we saw yesterday, at 2 p.m., the market can do many different things. You go from down here on the Nasdaq 669. This is the Qs, and I'm just trying to show it to you because this is where we are right now. So you're just coming back into where that bunch up happened just before Warsh took the stand, and then went into to stand. It sounds like he's on trial, but I guess sort of they are every time. And then there's what the the longer end of the bond market and everything, the rates start to really get hit there. And the market, the Nasdaq, corrected itself all the way back in. So this could happen again here today when this market opens back up. I mean, not much has changed. We got earnings. We got one good from Microsoft, a little bit of a bad one from Meta, and we've talked about a few other names there today. So I'm interested. I'm writing down the TQQs here today, see if we can find some dip buy opportunities, but it may not hold. This 200 period right now at 670 on the Qs. All right, we've talked about it a little bit earlier today. We do have Mitch ready to rock and roll here, an analyst there from Trade the Pool. So we want to thank him for coming through once again, and we're going to throw it back to the desk where we can begin the discussion.
Let's indeed talk with Mitch. There's a lot to discuss today, but we'll start here by saying welcome and good morning to Mitch Hoke, Money Mitch, analyst over at Trade the Pool. Good morning. How are you doing today, Mitch?
Doing good, getting my Dutch Bros ready. It was said well, and it's made its way over even to Florida. I remember when I first started seeing this company really expand, I started seeing them in Colorado, but they're making their way all the way out east now in Florida. So shout out to Dutch Bros. It's definitely a great company. I love the way they built it, and it's, let's say, the Chick-fil-A of coffee.
Yeah, a great tie in there to what we were talking about earlier. Now, let's get into Mag 7 earnings. Of course, we have two that are going to be coming after the bell tonight, Amazon and Apple. But let's talk for trading purposes about the two that we already have that we just got, Microsoft and Meta. If you had to pick one to trade today, Mitch, which one and why?
1,000% Microsoft was what I was actually watching last night as the report came out. I said, whoa. This is a good report. If we can't get this stock to come up now after we've been so beaten down, RSI down towards the 26 on the Qs, and with this good report, something has to come up. Something has to start changing where we actually get a good report and we get stocks to go up on a good report versus what we've been seeing, which are sometimes good reports and stocks coming down on it. So of course, Azure growing 43%. I mean, the revenue here, the cloud space just justifies the spend. Not only does that justify the spend, but when you look at the RPO, right, and you look at how they're getting like 200 billion from OpenAI, right, in the next couple of years, just that alone justifies that CapEx spending, let alone their RPO number that's up there towards 680 billion, right? So in this case, I think Microsoft is definitely the play here. So what I did is for trade the pool, you can't necessarily swing on some of these earnings stocks as the earnings cut you out. So what I did, I'm smart. I know how Microsoft works. And what is it? It's a lot of CoreWeave, right? So how Microsoft goes, if the revenue is doing well, CoreWeave will probably do well. So I went long on CoreWeave last night. I have 61.14s. It's now trading at 66.20s and continuing to climb this morning. So that's one trade that you can watch also off the backs of Microsoft's great report.
Yeah, I like that pairs trade there, Mitch. I want to talk about any sectors that you have and watch. I mean, I think crypto off the top of my head is maybe one to look at. You had Robinhood last night. You're going to have Coinbase and MSTR today. We've had some biotech earnings. We've had some credit card earnings. So I guess what's your top sector that you're watching right now or that you've had some good trades on earlier this week?
So I think the sector that we got to watch is healthcare, right? Because that's an area that I've been watching for a while now. Last time I was on, I was talking about Johnson & Johnson, Gilead, those types of names. They've done really well, right? A big part of this was Johnson & Johnson kind of dipping their toes and really taking off in the surgical game, right? AI surgery has really kind of pushed. There's a kind of a new change in outpatients. It's kind of changing things up. Medicare, of course, different changes that are going on there. So healthcare is the trade here. I think another one to look at is IBB, right? The IBB has been hanging out here around the 190 to 87s. I think today's that day where you could maybe see this dip below and it be an opportunity, right? I'm actually looking for these to pull back here to get the opportunity to go back in because I do think that tech is going to have maybe its day in the sun today, but that doesn't mean that we're out of the realms of the pullback, right? I think we're in for some chop here in tech, especially going towards the back end of the year. So I think we need to be watching for areas that are continuing to show strength. That's healthcare. Of course, there is some growth there, and AI can play into that space. So I'd be watching that. But for today, it's definitely a tech type of day. So yeah, you can push that one towards more of a swing trade idea. And I'd be focusing on just trying to ride the tech momentum, right? You're going to continue to see this momentum lead into the open. Why? Because it doesn't want to let traders in, right? Like if you think about yesterday, everyone was in panic mode. Everyone was like, oh my God, I cannot buy a single tech stock, right? Well, there you have it. Now the market goes and humbles all those shorts. Now, that doesn't mean that tech has completely flipped, but it does mean that we can ride the wave. And that's exactly what I'm doing this morning. I was able to get out on a trade on SOXL this morning and close to 4 digits on that. Not going to be mad about that. It's been doing really well this morning. And I think you just ride different waves. I have CoreWeave on. I got out of a TQQQ position this morning, and I'm just trying to just continue going with the action. Another stock that I'll be watching for reversal today, of course, is Intel. Of course, that report really wasn't bad underneath the hood, and you're seeing it the action this morning from 82s to the 86. So one thing you got to be careful of is right out the gates, we probably go in towards more of that quick red look, right? It's going to wash out some of the traders that are trying to hold on for too big of a trade here. We'll see what happens if we find buying on those washouts. That's what you really want to be watching for, right? Because if you can find buying on the first washout of the day, that could mean that the appetite is out there to go into these risk assets again. Of course, Bitcoin could be one of those kind of indicators to see if we get some risk back on, because we've seen names like CleanSpark and Riot really come down fast. So we'll look to see if we see some type of bounce in risk on names.
Is there anything going on at Trade the Pool right now that you want to let the people know about? I know you guys had that World Cup, and obviously the World Cup is over right now. So I guess what's next for you guys over at Trade the Pool, and how can people join and play along?
Yeah, you know, we've had a lot of creators join now. You know, it's not just myself making videos, not just myself trading on there. So I'd say come check out Trade the Pool. We have over 7 creators making different trading content for you guys, showing you guys live trades. I mean, the other day I was able to make over $10,000 on the stream live. So if you guys want to see trades like that, you guys know where you're at. Trade the Pool. We give you guys the buying power to go ahead and achieve your dreams that you're looking for. And that was with a 200K account. So if you're looking to get some buying power, Trade the Pool might be the place to be. And just to mention, I know my man Sean wants to talk about SoFi, the financial beta winner, as I want to call it. This report was actually really great. So today's the day to look for that reversal, right? I'm going to look to see if financials can kind of get a little bit of an up move, but SoFi definitely on the radar today. Look for a quick red action towards the 15, lower 15s, let's say back towards 15.25. But then I want to see a sweeping trade come back through 15.50s. And then I want to use that 15 as a potential bottoming for SoFi to start working its way back. Of course, this stock loves to chop around, especially during earnings. Let's see, now that earnings have gotten out of the way, can we get some continued upside pickup?
Thank you very much to Mitch Hogue, Money Mitch over at Trade the Pool, for all those good ideas, for being here with us today. We'll see you again, I'm sure, Thursday morning very soon. So best of luck on today's session. Before we go over to Joe and the upgrades and downgrades, I have to mention a story here for Oracle and Google. So I'll just do that quickly if you guys do not mind. And thanks again to Money Mitch Hogue. Keep an eye on Oracle and Google. Oracle reportedly expanding its partnership with Google. They're going to be bringing Google's cloud models to enterprise applications. So nice little spike here for ORCL. I have to give this one props for bouncing off the lows from yesterday. But let's see what are on the highs and lows for analysts with the upgrades and downgrades.
Thank you very much for that, Adara. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of the analyst actions here this morning. A lot of names and big names here. We're going to kick things off with the very ever so popular, much so popular Meta. Now, guys, Citigroup here, giving them a buy rating, but we're going to be slashing our price target from $850 down to $8. You can see that we're negative more than 8%. But Citigroup stating and citing Meta's elevated spending and lower free cash flow for the target cut. Now, we've seen a lot of these hyperscalers really deplete their free cash flow, and I think that's an important metric that we need to keep our eyes on, especially with the upcoming earnings report amongst the hyperscalers. How is that performing, all right? So we've already had Amazon depleting 75% and 90% here for Meta, but also issued Q3 guidance that was roughly in line with the streets, which feeds into AI bear concerns. Now, here's another issue here, guys. We're starting to see better performance among some of its AI tools, but the capital expenditure is really coming into play here, guys. Moving forward, we're going to be looking at Qualcomm. Negative this morning, but Bernstein giving them a market perform, but reducing its price target to $165. That's down from $235. Now, the downgrade and the price cut is based off cost increase and higher spending are impacting the company's margins, all right? So DRAM factor coming and the memory storage really affecting this name. Continuing cost pressures in the smartphone market as well too. Really hurting this name. You're down to $165 price target. The margins being the main issue of concern. Now we have Robinhood, a pretty good report here, guys, but we have Barclays giving them an overweight rating, but across the board, multiple analysts reducing their price target. So here we're seeing $105 price target. That is down from $122. But going through the report, Q2 trading activities reached all-time highs for equities, options, and event contracts. So you see these event contracts really starting to gain some steam, especially when there's competition out there like Kalshi and the other betting markets as well too. Guys, this report was hindered by the lack of crypto trading. That was down roughly 30% year over year. So that was a tough look within that specific segment of the company. The company's EBITDA came in as well ahead of estimates. So here it is, slightly positive this morning, but across the board, multiple analysts reducing their price target here on Robinhood. Now, more positive side of things, guys, at Microsoft. a price target increase, but we have a hold rating here. Stifel giving them a $450 price target. That is up from $400. The company reiterated its full year 27 guidance and sustained double-digit revenue growth and operating income. Now, we've seen Copilot actually gain 10 million paid subscribers over the quarter, which I think helped add a little bit of a boost into this name, and then also phenomenal cloud growth from Azure or within Azure itself. All right, guys. Last but not least, we have Starbucks on the list, 5.6% to the top side. Neutral weight rating, but we're going to get a slight price target increase, $112. UBS giving them that nod. That is actually up from $105. So the analyst stating that Q3 results and raising full year 26 guidance as the back to Starbucks turnaround gains some traction. A positive look here for Starbucks this morning, guys.
Yeah, love that look on Starbucks, no question, no question about it. It looks absolutely fantastic. I want to shout out to, we did get a gift from Alfred over there on TikTok. Just want to shout him out there and appreciate you, Alfred. Thank you for the gift. If you want to include a message, you always can with the gift. Talk about a symbol, ask a question, whatever it might be. Just want to show our appreciation for you there, my friend. And just to jump right back to one thing Mitch said, because Mitch, he covered a lot, as per usual, but one of the things that got mentioned was how, he talked about XBI, Biopharm, the healthcare names, how they're going to be able to benefit from AI. Remember, it's going to be cheaper to do drug trials long run. And you'll be able to target exactly what you want to. Everything is going to be a little bit more efficient. It's such a capital and time-consuming and costly business to get drugs to market, as everybody knows, and that'll make it a little bit easier, especially for the big boys who a lot of times do it through acquisition. So yeah, I think that definitely benefits this group. And as people rotate back into tech, I think there could be a chance maybe even get AbbVie could pull back into the prior high, get a dip, maybe the 50 period in there. So those are things to definitely watch. But yeah, that quarter Starbucks looks fantastic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've already talked about Microsoft quite a bit there.
Yeah, no, shout out to Mitch there yesterday. Obviously, we had $15 long yesterday on SoFi. It was my number one P&L yesterday, and it actually went up to 1570, 1580. This was before the Fed, right? And so, yeah, we'll look to see. I just put it out right now again. The watch list is now out, and I have DRAM there as the top. Then I have the Qs, and I have IBIT, then I have SoFi. So it's pretty simple here today. Actually, no stocks on here, just SoFi, we just talked about it, but DRAM, TQ long, IBIT long, SoFi long. That's what we're looking at right here today. So four ideas early. Go check it out on X, and I'm just gonna go long. I don't know, the market's up 2%. Some of these calls, all the longs aren't long off the open. I'm thinking we are gonna get some sort of a dip down opportunity. So that's gonna have to happen for SoFi. The thing is, we have to wait to see what happens here with the news I know there's some sort of news about Intel, I thought maybe. There it is right there. So Intel to the downside. Nothing going on right now in the imbalance land. And I saw a bunch of people talking about what was going on there with Intel. Well, really there's the story, but there's nothing happening with it. It does make a move down as the algos hit it, and then right back up as maybe it's a nothing burger. AI chip packaging tech to counter Intel. So that's not a great sign for Intel, of course, but it seems to be doing okay off of that. Wow, Intel got to $80. Wow, that was a real big washout. 140 top down to 80. You're getting into levels now. This is what I was saying before. Regardless of how bad you think this is, a lot of it has been, and what's up to Don Baco or Don in the chat there, Baca, from Prague. Shout out to Prague. Just wanted to say, these levels may be interesting to buy a little bit off of, little nibble action here, because there's 80, there's the gap. And he was mentioning just the fact that, hey, maybe it's not all baked in yet. The earnings are just coming through right now. So who knows where these names are really going to settle down. We'll have to let the market tell it for us. And I think that's a valid point. It's just right now we've been coming back in so hard on so many names that at some point there has to be a get up, right? We don't necessarily think that software, the problems are solved there, right? But you do see a nice little bounce back there. CRM gets beat up so badly from 210 down to 150, then it battles back in. We got 190 yesterday on that kind of a name, right? We've talked about names like ServiceNow that went through all this software Armageddon and everything, and once this loads up, I can show it to you. There's the 140 top back into 90 a couple times, found a base down there, popping back up into 114, 115. So there is going to be some love for all of these names at some point. They're just a couple stories away from being now returning to glory. I don't think we're getting 140 on Intel anytime soon, but a little bit of a better feel now that we're through earnings. We could start to see a little bit of a rally on some good headlines. We just need to get those headlines. And when we do, I think the market will bump up from that for sure. So.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see we're in an environment where Microsoft got rewarded for their earnings, right? Lam got rewarded. Like before, it was like, oh, okay, well, even if it was good, you're heading to the downside like Intel did there, but Lam just fine. And I think that's the kind of thing that we're looking to see. So I do like that aspect of it, where finally we see good reports and we're going to get double digits from the names that we want to see to go to the upside. That being said, there's a lot to cover. We have a big and busy free watch list, which we're going to get into right now before we take you into the open. 25 minutes till said open. Let's get back up to the desk.
Down goes Fraser. 729.5 is where we closed out yesterday on the SPY, decidedly losing that 740 area of support we have been talking about now for a few weeks. Good thing is, this 730 area, it's a repeat offense area as an area of support. Take a look at what we did in late June and again in early June when we got into that 730 area. So we're already bottoming till now. On the 4 hour, we're breaching prior bar high. So let's see, number one, can we hold 730? We're at about 735 right now. If we catch a bit of dare, 740 as R1.
There's a lot to discuss today. We're not going to be able to get to every name, which is why you should check out our free Trader TV Live watch list for all of the earnings names that are on watch, for all of the sectors that are in play, for all the names that are going to be reporting tonight, for any economic data in focus. You can use that link. You just type that right in, or you can just click the link in the description. Probably easier. Either way, the watch list is free, and it comes to you every single morning that the markets are open, because we're here with you guys every single trading day. Let's take a look here at MSFT. This was a solid report across the board, Sharif, and you called it. You said if they give us a good call, we'll likely get a gap up. That's exactly what happened on MSFT with that Azure growth, EPS beat, revenue beat, and another fiscal year in the books.
And you know what surprised me the most? People are actually using Copilot. And okay, relax, Joe. You're not even using it anymore. No, but people are adopting it more on an enterprise sense. Their revenue beat, they have a lot of demand for it. I was shocked. Let's talk about this though. Full year, so Q4, earnings beat $90 billion on the dot is what they brought in revenue. Their GAAP EPS 481. We'll get to that GAAP EPS in a second, but let's talk about their RPO, specifically their commercial RPO, rocketing up 84% year over year. Adara, they have $678 billion in remaining performance obligations. I know your affinity for that number. $3.2 billion is what they made from their Anthropic investment combined with OpenAI, but the majority of the money came from Anthropic, and that boosted their EPS by about 27 cents a share. So that 481 number, if you remove Anthropic's investment, it's about 27 pennies less. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Their gaming unit continues to bleed, specifically Xbox. Gaming performance severely lagged cloud momentum, and Xbox content and service revenue fell 10% year over year, but it is a small segment for them, and they do have a new CEO. So we'll see if she's able to finagle some growth there. And then Azure officially crossing $100 billion in annual revenue, driven by a 43% quarterly growth in Azure and other clouds. That is the first time in the company's history it crosses that mark.
Yeah, good look there for MSFT. And again, fiscal 2026 for them is now over and done. Are you guys looking at MSFT today?
I don't know if it's going to get a dip that makes it worthy of it. Almost doubling up Alphabet's cloud growth there. So like that's got to be what you're asking for. I mean, like, it's not really double. I think whatever. 43 versus 23 is pretty damn good. But it was about the comparison, and that's one of the things we were talking about. I think it's going to be true of Amazon. Like, you're going to put these three side by side and look at that cloud growth, and then Microsoft appears like it's going to be the clear winner here. I don't want to crap on Amazon, but I kind of doubt that they're going to be able to beat, AWS can be able to beat that kind of growth, or at least approach the quarterly growth improvement. So 415 was the level on the daily chart that I was pretty interested in if we could have a dip into it. But, at 830, there was the chance that the market was going to pull back in. Economic numbers, we had triple barrel, GDP was a little bit weak. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case on Microsoft. So maybe play it by ear, see if VWAP holds, because the gap fill, usually on big earnings gaps on big cap tech names, I tend to find the breakout through the high is not as well received. It's usually your best bets for longs are to try to catch a bid when it fills in the gap, and then it'll close regaining the high. So look for those teens if we get there. Otherwise, there's plenty else to look at. We'll get into Robinhood, Jersey Mike's. I like IBIT today. We'll be looking at that as well. So yeah, plenty to watch, but I don't know if we're going to be able to see the dip buy where I want it.
Yeah, we had, we just put it, like I said, we just had that contest. We put some Microsoft in the portfolio there for that one. I just, we talked about sort of the death of the software names. And look, we knew, I'd mentioned over the last couple of weeks there that we thought Copilot, did have some upside to it. I was hearing that, it was going quite well, and that Azure would be part of the, beneficiary of that 30+ million seats rate there for paid seats for Copilot, which is really super sweet. And I think that, as Mitch had said here, looking at that report, if it wasn't up, there could have been a problem. Now, up 10% seems like a lot. The only real worrisome here is this 200 period moving average, which we haven't broke all year. So that's something to look at. Does it look familiar to what this was? Yes, it does. That's back in May. So, it's does this happen now? I don't think so. I think now that we have earnings, we could see where the revenues are going to come from, especially with a good forward look as well on the name. I think Microsoft does not have this opportunity here. So as Neil said, where you're going to get long now, maybe you pull back into the 50 period if it comes back into 400 for some strange reason. I just don't think it does. I think now there's going to be a lot of people that may be offside on Microsoft. And I don't mean short, just maybe underweighted here, and the get up could be real, and it could be a nice continuation move there for Microsoft today. So you want to be careful when it will break this 425. At 925 we're going to get imbalances, and if it's a red imbalance, it will break through. So I just want to look always at the 200 period moving average. So I think Microsoft down there at 417 is worth something. So let's have a wait to see if that winds up hitting. But my prediction is we do break this 425 as profit. And, traders that maybe were long yesterday, long into this print, long off of this 380, wake up today and realize you get a nice little 10% bump in a name that doesn't normally move 10. So, that's going to be a good look here. Let's see if we do break that 425. I like it for a scalp short. If we break 425, probably bouncing off near that 420 area. So I think you can have, a $4 to $5 winner short on Microsoft. I like the name. It's nothing to do with that. I just think as a day trade, the short there, the pre-market low break, we've seen that work so many times. So I would like to look at that, and then we'll find out where the bouncing spot is there on Microsoft. All right, from one name where you're looking to maybe see if there's a downside trade to Meta, where the downside trade everyone's hoping is already in. Let's go have a word with Adair and Sharif about Meta.
Meta, it's a rough look here for the stock, and it's kind of a rough look for these numbers here as well. You did have a pretty sharp Q2 EPS miss. It was also down year over year for EPS. Those sales were a beat, but this Q3 sales guidance also tepid. There's a lot to get into here with Meta.
Everybody's pounding the table on the EPS miss, but there's a good reason for this, guys. All right, so there was a $1 EPS miss here. The street wanted $7.18. They printed $6.18. Why? Because they had $2.4 billion in legal loss reserves. That's tied to the upcoming trial for the youth safety. We've been talking a lot about that. And then there was another $1.18 billion for the layoffs that they had in May. These are, one-time severance charges. So what I'm trying to say is this is a one-time recurring item, not to recur again. So that EPS miss may not continue into Q3. This is Q2, by the way. Free cash flow, absolutely getting squeezed, Adair. Listen to this. So they brought in $31.86 billion in operating cash flow. Guess how much they spent? $31.1 billion. So they're spending everything they're bringing in. And now their free cash flow is down to less than $1 billion. For a company this size, $784 million is what they're working with at the moment, and they're not done. They're looking at taking on more debt. So to finance the full year CapEx, they're raising $130 to $140 billion is what they're going to spend for year 26. And that takes their long-term debt liability to $83.66 billion, and they're not done. They're looking at other ways to generate cash. So whether or not, they're going to go to a Morgan Stanley, they're going to issue new shares, a bridge finance. There's so many different accounting methodologies that they can follow. So we'll have to see, how the street receives that. And then there are other revenue. So we're talking about the WhatsApps, right? for the first time ever, it cleared $1 billion. It's a high margin business, and it's really driven here by businesses using the WhatsApp messaging. I guess they're paying for that. So not an area that I know too much about.
Yeah, spending still an issue here for META. Neil, are you spending any mental capital looking at this stock today?
It's hard not to. I mean, a big cap tech name like this, it's going to be potentially SSR. It did take 10% down, but that happened in the pre-market. So the uptick rule and the short sell restriction, which is the uptick rule going into effect, that really only happens when it hits 10% down in the open market. That'll be at about, I don't know, 526. If it hits there, then you're that 10% down. It's already triple bottomed effectively, or consolidated bottomed at that low, which gives you an easy place for it to do a little bit of a dip and rip. So false break of the low at the open, and I think you've got yourself a chance. On the other side, as Sharif mentioned, yeah, there were some one-off items that made the EPS look worse than it probably will be going forward. But it's not as if it was a gigantic beat on revenue or anything that blew you out of the water in that regard either. So, there are some concerns here, and you can't ignore the direct comparison that gets made. Like, maybe this isn't so bad if Microsoft isn't so good. If Apple wasn't firing on all cylinders, and there'll be a couple of extra choices tonight, because if Amazon, like better that Amazon and Apple look tonight, could also weigh a little bit on Meta. So yeah, it's at the level where you're looking for the bounce. It's just a matter of putting in that bottoming tail candle for a bit of an SSR bounce. It was so weak going into this report. Like, I don't think there is a green day. There might be one that's miscoded. There probably is at least one green day in the last 2 weeks there. So it is primed for a bit of a relief rally. But I wouldn't be putting too much stock in that one-off aspect of the EPS, because it's not as if the revenue growth was making anybody do cartwheels, if we're being real.
Yeah, I mean, I hate looking back at decisions that were not made, and it's just like, we sold some AMD, we sold some Intel, we sold names that we were sort of questionable on, and Meta was definitely one of those names, man. Look, it's not, for me, it's not like a super heavy position from all the Mag 7s for me, but still, to give up from 680 down to 530, like that's, you just lost. I mean, right there, just as Neil said, 9 straight down days. Or maybe more. In those 9 days, that's down 23% right there, top to bottom, 23% in 9 days of this, huge name. Will they ever figure out what to do with WhatsApp? Like, there's certain things that they're going to have to start to monetize. I think Zuckerberg's lost his way a little bit here. I don't really love this name. Glad that it's, one that we've trimmed out on. It's just like, how do you feel this year? It's actually not even really that bad year to date. 650 down to 530, but there's so many other opportunities out there that Meta just does not seem like it's a buy. Look, down here it might be. I mean, you may want to get out if it breaks $500, but like, I don't know if that's going to come today or not. It sucks because we had sort of flagged that Meta was a problem and should have got out when we said about it that at 640. We'll get another opportunity. Look, I mean, if you're taking the strategy, I'm going to hold something forever and ever and ever, then yeah, maybe Meta gets back up there at some point. But there's going to be so much more opportunity. Like if Meta gets back up to here, then that 20%, you won't worry about it. It's just let's wait to see what winds up happening. I mean, the ad business is still strong. Like I always say, every time there's somebody born, there's another Instagram account created. So you got to watch out for, a possible bounce in Meta, but I don't know, down 10%. I think it goes lower today. I think they come for this name, and I'd rather be short than long heading into today's trade for Meta. So, down 9%. I think it gets down 10, and then I think it gets down 12, and then we'll wait to see what happens at maybe this 520 area. So Meta's not interesting to me yet on the long. Has to flush a little bit more, but it's a low PE. So, if you do believe in the name, it's probably worth nibbling here. Just sucks to be holding on to it. That's all. During these roller coaster rides, right? I mean, we were just down here a month and a half ago, so to think that we can get back upside, I think is very possible. All right, Robinhood, Jersey Mike, and Amazon. Let's go.
Let's start here with Robinhood, HOOD. We're going to take a look at what's under the hood with this company. This was kind of a mixed report. You're still having some issues, though, with crypto revenue stream, which used to be a strong point for them.
Well said, Adara. Yes, 38% plunge in crypto revenue as, crypto doesn't go up. I guess people aren't trading it. 38% drop now to $100 million. That is down from $160 million in Q2 of 2025. So the comp from last year, they remain subdued. But look, when one part does bad, the other part picks up. What am I talking about? I'm talking about event contracts, guys, or prediction markets. Absolutely skyrocketed tenfold year over year, now bringing in $156 million in that. Which is obviously now, sorry, not obviously, but it is their third largest revenue stream after options and after equities. So prediction markets really aggressively moving. But we didn't even talk about their earnings. They had an earnings beat on the top line and the bottom line, but that bottom line, again, heavily influenced by non-recurring one-time items. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the deconsolidation of Robinhood Ventures. They made some money from that, and if they hadn't made any money from that, then EPS would have been more at 48 pennies rather than 62. So some food for thought. And then Trump accounts. Come on. President Trump. Other revenue here, which Trump accounts falls under, expanded 54% year over year. They brought in $143 million in deposits. And those $143 million, Adara, they brought in $25 million in service fees that are 100% profit.
Yeah, I mean, good look here for Robinhood. It'll be interesting to kind of see how Coinbase performs tonight because they're in a similar sector. Do you have some comments from White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett saying that Kevin Warsh, Fed chair, his job is, quote, now easier with today's inflation data. So interesting look there. Cryptocurrency revenue for Robinhood, as we said, dropping actually for the third straight quarter now. How do you guys feel about Hood?
Yeah, look, understandably, crypto not there, but the volatility in the markets is making up for it. So you talk about, we didn't really mention this quarter, but certainly true last. PDT rule gone, more activity there. Predictions markets are fantastic for it. It's just disappointing that you're not breaking out this 94 level. Like that's what I would have been much more interested in. It still could be a breakout trade there today. Like a look at that. You look at the double top and anything. A lot of stocks have this with the double top from the Fed, but it also lined up with the double top from the day before, and then support the 2 days before that. So it's an obvious breakaway area, but the aforementioned crypto, I mean, Bitcoin is through that double top. So this is a little bit more interesting, at least early on for me, because you have that 36, just underneath 36 half, which is 64.4 or something like that, if you're looking at actual Bitcoin. So on IBIT, I want to look to be long on IBIT today. I don't want to write off that breakout over 94 on Robinhood. Certainly has the juice to be able to get there, but like IBIT's above levels with a chance to be the dip buy, whereas hunting for the breakout has not really been much of a thing this last quarter. So yeah, it'll be IBIT for me, at least early. But yeah, that 94 change breakout on Robinhood looks pretty good. It was a good, if not perfect quarter, as Shreve said. It was a lot of the beat. It's still a beat if you take away the divestment of the Robinhood Ventures Fund. They still did beat on EPS, even if you take that out. But it's a slight beat. It's like 48 versus 44, which is still pretty good, but it's not the huge beat that it seemed.
Look, I only have a few names written on here. Obviously, we have IBIT right there at 36.30, so I think that's and hopefully an easy look long. So we'll look there. IBIT 36.30. It's so funny how I can sit here and we can all talk about what the look that Meta had over the last little while, when realistically Robinhood's worse. You go over to Robinhood, that's 120 down to 90, right? So you're down that swell. It's same 23% right now on Robinhood. So this has been a equally disastrous 9 days for Robinhood that it is for Meta. Unfortunately, half of Meta's loss came today with the earnings report. So Robinhood, thankfully, did not have the similar reaction to their report that Meta did. Obviously, they're completely different reports, so we don't have to worry too much about it. And maybe now you're finally, I still don't like Robinhood as a long. You're still underneath everything right here. I think if you get back into that 70, 75, 80 area, then you're down 40% from its highs. At that point, I think there might be a buy zone there for Robinhood. The prediction markets are nice, but there's just so many different opportunities for the prediction markets out there to trade on different platforms that I think it's unique now for that to be available on Robinhood. But we know it's available on IBKR, soon to be on DraftKings, and I think more legislation coming anyways on those prediction markets. So I think it's a nice sort of tailwind for now. I just don't think it lasts. So for me, Robinhood, I'm already into SoFi. And I know they're different. SoFi is a bank. That's why I prefer it more. But I think that down into this area, 70 to 75 is maybe where it gets interesting. And then you can maybe average in when it gets to 35. Like if it breaks this area right there, then there's really no support from the whole year. And again, a name that's not doing that bad. I mean, we look again and we just see what's been happening so far year to date. This was 120. So if you've been holding this all year, you're still down 30% on it, but you were just flat 2 weeks ago. It's just crazy how this last month or so has been so volatile for so many names. And I mean, we get the Fed coming out yesterday, and it looks like now that rate hike cycle is kind of just beginning. So yeah, I'm not in love with a lot of these names. And when you're seeing a JP Morgan get hit yesterday, down to, I think it was 343 or something when we looked at it yesterday. Maybe that makes sense. Like I would much rather wait for any kind of dips if the market's going to dip and buy some of the JP Morgans, the Morgan Stanleys of the world, even obviously better than a SoFi or anything like that. So, you know, we talked about the XLF and how interesting that has looked over the last little while. That, you know, there's a lot of love. There's IBIT with a sell, so you know disagreeing a little bit with the buy, but hey, I wanted this to come down so we can buy it. Microsoft gets hit with a sell again. Should be interesting to see where this name winds up going. Even though it's a sell, it's still ticking higher here into the open. NVIDIA yesterday at 190 held pretty nicely. We can see if that winds up holding again. And there's Oracle down there, as Adara brought up that point today. Oracle to the upside there today, and then Netflix as well, trying to catch a bid, small one of 116, but look at Netflix near bleeding to the downside here early. So yeah, 925. Jersey Mike's going to be exciting. We'll wait. We'll be showing the imbalance locator here as Jersey Mike. I think it probably as soon as it's there already, but it's only 9,000. I see it on Neil's screen. Once the market starts to open up, we'll get more volume here for JMKE today. That should be an exciting one. We're going to talk about it right now.
Jersey Mike's JMKE price against IPO at $23. That is smack dab in the middle of that $21 to $25 range. Should be actually a pretty interesting debut, Sharif.
Yeah, 43.5 million shares, give or take, is what they're going to issue here. It's going to be on the NYSE, as Adara mentioned. JMKE is going to be the ticker. They're also going to issue an additional, to what they already had in the float, 13.7, almost 13.8 million shares to repay debt and cover general corporate expenses. Are not going to receive any money for operations from that. There's also an over allotment option. They've granted some of the underwriters here a 30-day option to buy another 6.5 million shares. Speaking of the underwriters, you got Morgan, Jefferies, and JP taking the lead here, but you also have Barclays and Guggenheim acting as co-coordinators. Companies headquartered in Jersey. They operate 3,300 franchises across the United States and this country, Canada.
You guys taking the open on JMKE?
It'll have to do some. If it does something a little different than what it's indicating now, because one of the things is that they were talking about 21 to 25, and then they come at 23 for the issue. So it's not as if they had to raise it, which is usually a pretty good sign. Like if they need to raise that, or could have raised it to like 27 or the 30 range, that would have indicated maybe a little bit more hype. So if I see enough interest, I might take something, but it would be much smaller than any of the other IPOs. It's not really in the super explosive sector either, so that's another thing to consider. I can show you it's a very small neutral imbalance. I think it was 9,000 to buy. Now it's saying neutral. Don't know why. It's still only paired pretty small. It'll be in the millions before it opens up. That's a good way to gauge it, but we'll keep you guys abreast of what's going on with that IPO. I wouldn't suspect that we'd even see this open on the morning show. It'll probably be for the midday.
Yeah, 20 straight years of same-store sales growth for Jersey Mike's.
Not bad.
Same store. Yeah. You know, so 20 straight years
That'll play.
of opening up a store, and every year your sales going higher and higher and higher. So I like MKE there today. I don't know if I'll be sitting here by the time it opens, but if I am, you know, we'll definitely have a look at what Jersey Mike looks like. And yeah, we want to see what the pricing comes out at, right? I mean, maybe if it's above the 25, then we will know that there's a little bit more interest in the name, and then we could try to spike it right off the open. But for right now, you know, I'm interested in it. We'll just have to wait to see what the data looks like. So, you know, watch us trading live here, Jersey Mike. Hopefully the guys on the midday, if it does open up, not hopefully, they will be looking at it. So Jersey Mike opening up probably well, who knows when, but generally some of these IPOs have been between that 12 to 12.30 marker.
Say 12.17.
Yeah, as long as it's not, SpaceX was 11.45 or something like that. So we were pretty lucky to get that one early, but we'll have to wait around for Jersey Mike's, I think. But it's on the New York exchange, so that's interesting. Well, the last couple ones have been on the Nasdaq.
Oh, Nasdaq.
So. All right, just 1 minute left. Amazon and Apple tonight. Maybe a quick word, and then we'll get ready to trade.
Yeah, Amazon, Apple both reporting after the bell. Sharif, any thoughts that you're looking at for tonight?
Yeah, Azure is going to be the biggest thing, of course, or sorry, AWS, pardon me. For Amazon, we'll have to see if that can keep pace with Azure's growth and Google Cloud's growth. For Apple, I want to know exactly how they're going to find it, or they're going to navigate the increased component costs. We've seen them Apple upgrade. How much is that Apple upgrade going to cost them? Because they're going to schlep their own money to finance some of these products here. So let's see how it goes, Adair.
Amazon at 4, Apple at 4:30. We'll give you guys the earnings right here on Trader TV Live. Let's go to the opening bell. Good luck.
Yeah, 30 seconds till the opening bell. There were a couple of imbalances, that have paired off right there. Microsoft with a little bit of one. IBIT, that sell imbalance is still there for Bitcoin. Just keep in mind, for IBIT, I shouldn't say for Bitcoin, it's not a stock, but it's not really moving down on that. So you still have all of that resistance from yesterday that's going to come into play. The opening bell is brought to you by VinFast. That's ticker VFS. You can scan the QR code to find more information. Want to thank them for sponsoring said opening bell, which opens the markets now.
All right.
Casino open, everybody. Right off the bat, we didn't really look at one name that I just saw a red reversal candle on. Was SpaceX. We didn't really talk about them, but they did do the dip and rip. This is headed right into that 118 area that's been resistance for the last few sessions. SoFi is moving a little bit. IBIT's doing absolutely nothing so far at the open. I feel like that's always true of IBIT if you're expecting a move. Microsoft, well, it broke out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we can put a fork in dipping into 415. 440 high on 440 high on Microsoft.
It's still very early, man. I would still say that play is still valid.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Right now, okay. So yeah, I mean, Meta was another one that we are looking at here to see what that was going to do off the open. It does dip right into the bid again there that we've seen in this pre-market. It looks like it's holding 525 quite nicely, 524 and change, and there it goes back up to the upside. The market's trying to come back a little bit. You know, we wanted to look, and one thing is my top idea today is DRAM. But we have to wait now for VWAP. That's 46, and that's what we marked down on here. We said look for some longs in DRAM here on the sticky note, but we had to wait for VWAP. At that time, it was 45. I mean, that's when we wrote it down here. But now we're way up here. There goes DRAM. There goes the rest of this market to the upside. Names like Marvell probably popping through right now with DRAM going. Yeah, there's Marvell up 9%. We like that one. We had the report from ARM yesterday.
15%.
Yeah, I mean, that's not stopping. That's up 15%. Now goes ARM, goes boom in the night. We wanted the TQQs long. People in the chat want us to look at the futures trade. I mean, I want this name long. It's got to come back in, right? I mean, there's a little bit of exuberance here early in the market as we tick near 2%. So yeah, good day to start with right there. And then, I had sort of said that I thought Robinhood could go to the downside. Look what the hell Robinhood's doing right now. That was a good idea. That's now getting crushed, Robinhood, from 91 down to 88 right now. So they were up 2 or 3%. And there it goes to the downside. Could be a buyback here at some point for Robinhood, but we definitely want to look to see if yesterday's, this is after the report, bounced off 85, 86. So could be a low look there for Robinhood. So, hey, we got that one right at least, but we didn't trade it. We're going to wait a little bit. It's 9:32.
Palantir is heading down.
Yeah, so that's right. So there's going to be,
What about the IG?
I mean, that could be an interesting name too. I think we want to look at names that are, have some stories behind them right now. But yeah, Palantir, here, we can call it up for you.
I'm just scanning through names right now. Nothing is really hitting. You saw what was going on with Microsoft. SoFi actually hasn't really moved yet, but I think day 2 SoFi is very much going to be in play. It just hasn't really done too much of a move. As I said, Bitcoin's heading to the downside. But Palantir, I know it doesn't have the catalyst, but just try to keep in mind, Palantir the last couple of days has been super, super volatile. Like 2 days ago, you had that monster drop into 118. So you don't want to forget levels like that if it breaks down, because that was a good reversion. 2 days ago, we're like, oh, wait for the dip. And when it finally bounced, it was fantastic. So that could be one worth watching. SpaceX does not get to 118. Well, it's actually 118 to 119. Close, but it's got that topping tail candle look. We've seen this story before. False breakout on SpaceX, and then look for it to close holding under VWAP and then scalp to the low if it doesn't get to the absolute top. That might end up being the first. Let me confirm that I paid for locates. I did.
Oh yeah, I mean I like SpaceX. I mean even SK Hynix today.
We didn't even look at that.
So if we do dip down here, just looking at the Qs again, it looks like the market's trying to make a little bit of a move through the 50 period right now for sure, right? And now we'll have to wait to see. There's view up. I still don't want that. I want this. I want a buck lower here. I want the 200 period on the Nasdaq. So if we can come into where we were sort of in the pre-market, then fine. It might not dip that low, but I want to give this a little bit of time. It's only 4 minutes in. Let's go have a look at what NVIDIA is doing here. Trying to chase back Apple, right? We'll see what happens tonight's report with Apple, but we'll wait to see what happens here with NVIDIA. Bouncing off that 190 again yesterday. We talked about that at the close. Now we start to go a little higher, but look, we are failing again here on NVIDIA. Maybe NVIDIA is the short that we all don't want to put on. That might just be it. 193 there. Could be a decent level. We're trying to bounce around it. A little early to hit the short on this, but what about a 192 break? I think that's going to be something that I'm going to look at here for NVDA here today, a 192 break lower, and then we'll see if that has any sort of get up to it. Here it comes in. I'm going to get that trade in right now, 192 break, and there it is. We are now short for the first trade for me on the day there on NVIDIA. I want to give this back probably to 193. I mean, it might be a little early to look at this play right now. So, we'll sit in it just for a minute. We'll see if we can get up to 2 units or so if this winds up working for us. But here goes NVIDIA. We're short for right now off of 192 early position there for NVDA. Look, it's bouncing 50 cents in 10 seconds here. So got to be careful with where this name could potentially go. Maybe it's a buy down here too, but that break lower. Look, I'm trying to buy dips for sure, but let's just see if this can help with this dip action. And we're going to get off of this if it breaks through 190.
I mean, you say dips. Microsoft hasn't had a red candle yet. It's still going. There hasn't been a pullback in Microsoft. I feel like by the time it gets there, it's going to be some kind of a look for the short side of the trade at this point. It's going to be a lot like Intel on some days, where you're looking for a dip buy, and the next thing you know, you're playing a reversion to the south side. The SpaceX is actually breaking the low, so we'll have to be a bit patient there. But so we're gonna go to plan C, because in the afternoon, reversed on SLV, but then missed this move here. Market's still going higher, and we're threatening to break down. So you've got trend low,
Market's really
not
low.
breaking. Yeah, well, market's really going, and I see relative weakness in SLV. So if it cannot break through this high, this is exactly where the secondary breakdown happened. So I'll have to go over to this if we're not going to get into some SpaceX. IBIT's still slightly moving to the downside. I haven't looked at Meta yet, but my guess is it's making a good bounce. Yeah, you had to basically have it right away at the open. At 9:30, it did that crazy wick. So it already did that push through on Meta. So a lot of strength in this market, which will make it pretty careful to grab this short. But looks like we're slowing down here on SLV. So we'll take that for the first one. SpaceX is actually bouncing a little bit, so that could still come in. But here we are kind of looking for VWAP on SpaceX. A little bit of a bounce. I think we have a chance to get that fill. It's clearly weak relative to the markets, even if it's up 2%. But look at it zoom right in, trying to get to this 115.5 on this bad boy. Let us know what else you guys are watching. I know we're focusing on a lot of earnings names and some regulars out there, and there's plenty moving. I haven't seen anyone harping about small caps yet, though.
No, not yet.
Hey, we'll get there.
We'll see there. Yeah, I mean, look, we'll trade whatever we see, right? So if there is some opportunities there, guys, please let us know. And hit us up on the chat right now if you do have something. This is going to be a first position in, and right now, let's spin the money one more time here for NVIDIA. As it's starting to go a little lower. We had to hold this against ourselves. It went up to 190. 250. I was actually waiting at 192.75 to get a little bit more, but here we go again, man. Hopefully there's a downside push here in the market so I can start to cover some of this. But there goes NVIDIA. We're short right now 191.50s. Sorry, it's at 191.50s. We're short at 192 there on NVIDIA. I'm looking to cover a little bit here at 191.50. That's why I mentioned that price, but we didn't get that fill, so we'll wait to see if there is a little bit of a pushback in that name. I don't want to cover too much of this. Like I said, it's an idea that I have early. Let's let it sort of work out for us. And if it does, then it does. It's NVIDIA downside. We have a unit and a half there. We only have now 1 unit left if we get the 50s. So we'll get out of half. I'll get out of a third of it if we get a 50 print. But for right now, just back and forth with NVIDIA, taking off something down there in the 70s. Again, the name that we looked at early when I was talking about it was Robinhood. That's still going lower right now, as there goes NVIDIA right back into the 50s. Okay, so we might be able to get another short opportunity here for NVIDIA. If it does come. Oh, we just missed the 50s again. I wasn't sitting there. I'm at 75 on NVIDIA. Should have been at 50. But I went, there we go. I want to take a very, very small fill there at 50. You know, still waiting to see if we can get VWAP there. And then really 193.50 or so, maybe. Wow, that was a good little fill. Let's get out a piece there if we can. It just bounced. Okay, there it is. We got 08. So a good little reload there on that name there for NVIDIA. So I still want to look elsewhere. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. There goes the market right now trying to break higher. I think this is one of Microsoft's largest days that we've seen in a hell of a long time,
Since 2020.
Yeah, up 15% right now for
sense.
Microsoft. So, you know, they're definitely helping this market take a little upside. And we had seen earlier, proper English, that Apple was on people's minds. And yeah, that's going the other way. Yeah, because I was mentioning it earlier that Apple was down 1% while the market was up. And that to me was a little strange. And now Apple getting hit to the downside here right now. So yeah, a little bit of worrisome there for Apple traders as we pull back from all-time highs just yesterday, down now 2% for Apple.
There's like maybe a sneaky logic to that with all the comeback in some of the chip names. It's like, you know what they do with Apple? Apple's strong when everyone else is weak, and it's what everyone runs to. So they take the profit when it's at the all-time high when the other things are running. It's not, wear it like a badge of honor, Apple, as far as I'm concerned, if people want to do that. Resisting VWAP here on SLV, I almost said SMCI. Those two things have nothing to do with each other. And then SpaceX, just to come back over to SpaceX, somebody is buying it at 114. Follow your rules. I don't want to get greedy. I didn't get the 115.50 fill, but we just triple bottomed at 114. So it still looks like this one's going to be trend down. Going to sit on the offer, still look for that volume weighted average price every chance we get. And Freudian slip, I just mentioned SMCI by accident when I was going to SpaceX. Oh, why won't this load? A little freeze on my level 2 there. This is another one where just watching relative weakness I was able to find. Like, if market's continuously going, someone is holding this down at the $27 level. It was a good short yesterday. I actually put this one on the note for a short, so it does count. But yeah, see the lower highs being put in as the market's making higher lows. I'm going to go for the short off the HOD, but pretty simple. If it breaks the top, then I got to stop. So I'm going to throw my stop in, get on the offer, and play this one to the south side. Before we go to Adair, thank you for the super chat there on the Rail TV. Hope everyone bought the 190 dip on NVIDIA. 37 RSI bounce has happened over 20 times the past few years, which sees around a 10% bounce within 3 weeks. So good observation there on the Rail. We got to go to the desk.
Yeah, keep an eye here on the Japanese yen. This is the JPY to the USD chart. This is the 15 minutes. I'll switch to a 1 minute or a 3 minute here. I guess the 15 a little bit cleaner. But basically, guys, keep an eye on the JPY. I'm seeing that people are suspecting potential yen intervention given this spike to the upside in the yen. So if you are a Forex trader or a currency trader of any kind, just be aware, yen, USD in focus. Also, guys, I just want to do a little bit of a shameless self promo. If you are trying to figure out what names to look at on earnings tonight, any earnings recaps in focus, I've got a whole bunch of stuff scheduled to come out literally all day, every 20 or 30 minutes or less on XOTTV Research. So definitely head to that site if you're looking for interesting earnings-related content. Back to you.
Thank you very much there, Adair. Appreciate you. Get that super chat up.
Yeah. All right. We keep getting reloaded, but it's not like Amazon. It's not like NVIDIA's doing anything. I mean, I'm taking some at 50 a couple times and getting out at, that play was 15s, and we just had an 02 fill come in there, a couple fills down right here right now. I mean, the problem is that initial punch there really hasn't given us any juice other than when it did drop into the 60s there. We just missed a 50 fill, so hopefully that will come back in here as we continue to support. I mean, I don't know if it's going to support or not. I'm going to put another bid there at 03s there on NVIDIA, so hopefully this can come back in. We're trying to hold out hope that there's a little bit of a move coming to the downside. But look at this market. Jeez, man, that's a bullish move right here. I cannot believe that NVIDIA is actually not going higher right now, considering what this market is doing. But that might be a telltale sign. Maybe we should think about getting some out right here as it's going pretty oppo of the market right there. We already talked about Robinhood. That's getting lower. That's $86. All right, SoFi. good bounce there. I wrote down 15 again on the level on my sticky note. That's what we hit yesterday. We had this whole trade. It was a pretty good position sizing there, down there, as we talked about. We have the funded trade funder there. If position sizing is your problem, go check those guys out. But yeah, we get into it. We get an opportunity there. We have a whole bunch of outs yesterday in the 70s. So that would be an interesting level right there to see if that winds up taking it out. And SoFi is getting close to that here right now. So there it is, 64 right now. That level, if we zoom out, maybe something, I don't know. There's almost too much bunch up there. That break right into here is better. That's actually 16 clean. So a 16 clean break on SoFi, I think, might be something there. Wow. Nasdaq up 2 and a bit and still going upside there on the Nasdaq. And we're both short. So we got to think, I got to think about a long.
I got out of that SpaceX long, Vlad, because I think the thing that's happened in SpaceX, it's made early bottoms and started to run, but I missed the IBIT turn. IBIT doesn't get down into the $0.50 at all. It never really even tested the low, and it looked like it was going to, but look at the breakout. I'm just going to sit VWAP and hope for a fail break of the high that dips into the volume-weighted average price. Oddly enough, okay, SLV's kind of still sitting right here. IBIT's going, but SLV's still inside the range for whatever reason. Gold is probably doing a similar thing. Now, my guess, so this is gold's breaking out. I guess we're just getting lucky with silver because the market's going. Gold actually broke the high and SLV didn't. Should be able to got to take advantage on the way back in and make sure we get some bids on this volume-weighted average price for sure, because everything else seems to be breaking out. So if you get a reprieve to catch a bit of a dip to get out of some shorts, got to be able to do that. But IBIT, that's the one that I missed, and I got to be able to get some kind of a dip buy on the first available chance. You'd mentioned SoFi, obviously not getting to 15, but there is that 15.8 for a reversion trade, because there was a double top up here at 15.75. That's getting pretty close. And then I was also looking at Palantir.
Wow, this market is nuts.
Palantir was so weak at the open 2 days ago, and it looked like it was doing the same thing. It didn't sniff a penny lower. It double bottomed right there and just bounced $5. I was thinking the 118 from 2 days ago, but look at this sucker. It's already green and already flying. I don't want to chase any of these moves, so give me IBIT on that dip, hopefully. Starbucks is breaking too? No. Well, yes, we like Starbucks. I don't want to hate on.
No, sorry.
I don't own any Starbucks. No, it's not breaking out. Who said Starbucks was breaking out? It's not breaking out yet. It's bouncing off the lows, but the breakout's above 110 on Starbucks. That's actually a little bit weak.
Come on, bro.
Come on, son. All right, so I got a bunch out of VWAP there on SLV. Thankfully, this one's not rallying with the market, but I'm going to take the pre-market low. I feel like we're getting a bit of a gift, and I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. That Palantir, a nice move higher there. I'm just looking for the same kind of names are popping up all on my scanner right there right now. We are in now. It looks like NVIDIA is starting to get ramped up a little bit right there. This market, holding on to this short, we have been covering. We did take a bigger position here it goes. Now the machines might have turned on. We're going to get out right here at 193.50, which is the pre-market high, or not the pre-market high, but right here, the 50-period moving average. If we can break above that, then I think it should be see you later for me on this trade. And we'll just, we could get a little bit more up here, but it looks like the machines now are finally starting to turn on NVIDIA, and that's a dangerous thing. We've seen these things absolutely moon from this spot, and we could have got out of this name that's why we're not putting on too many shares. We could have got out of it. We realized earlier that this market is just ripping to the north side, and for some reason NVIDIA was just caught there. So not much going on with NVIDIA. I think we'll take a little bit of an opportunity now, stop some of this bleeding if we can get some out for a 50-cent hit at 193. But then, hold on to it. If it does pull back, we want to have an opportunity to make some money if there is a fallback in right now. But with my stop now only being 20 cents away, unfortunately, I don't think I was in this one too early. It was just that we broke higher through right now. And with this market continuation move looking like it's going to continue, we definitely want to stop out of this one, because what if the market actually goes here and NVIDIA finally starts picking up again? NVIDIA's in a little bit of trouble early, but looks like it's battling back here late. And then I'll start looking at something else. But for right now, it's NVIDIA, and it's a DARA in the back.
Yeah, I just want to look here at Intel for you guys here. INTC, you've got not one but two stories on Intel. So for one here, this came out when you got this drop here on INTC around 9 a.m. The information reporting that the TMSC is developing AI chip packaging technology to counter Intel. But the other story here with Intel is, I guess, they're sharing some technology with Mosaic, which is a startup that I guess was led or has some backing by a former investing partner of Intel CEO Lip Bhutan. So a couple stories in Intel, one negative, one seemingly neutral, but this move up for Intel, definitely not neutral. I also want to mention Bloom Energy, because a lot of people in our chat are talking about it. I'm not seeing any news to explain this move on Bloom Energy other than this would be a day 2 earnings play. However, I did see 3 price target decreases for Bloom Energy this morning. Those would be from Truist, Mizuho, and Wells Fargo. So actually negative news, if anything, for Bloom Energy on earnings day 2, just sending this one to the upside. Back to you.
Bloom.
My house is on fire.
Fire. That kid is probably like 30 now.
He's probably like 85 years old, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's, I don't know, that's one of like the first YouTube, one of the old YouTube memes.
Oh, that was Randy.
No, it was there like a while ago.
Yeah,
I just turned around and noticed it because
I just heard the noise there, so I was like, oh my gosh, Randy.
451. If you don't know what stock I'm talking about, then, well, I mean, it's Microsoft.
Soon to be Meta?
You probably should know. Meta, it's still holding. Like, Meta's actually threatening breakout here, so it did do that tap off of 525 and looking pretty good. SpaceX is breaking out now. Sweet Christmas. Well, in fairness, it should have been a long off that 114 pre-market low, but the best you can do is not still be in the short. This is absolutely blasting to the upside. Bitcoin doesn't care about your feelings, and it doesn't want to dip. Microsoft doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't want to dip. Like I said, I'm only in SLV, and thankfully, like this is actually double tapping. Like the market continues to break, and this is holding the same high. So this is something that I should take at least another reload in. I'm gonna jump reload short and see if we can hang on to this one because it's not breaking out with the rest of the market, at least not yet. Other chip names that are out there, Intel, yeah, the TSMC news. Intel doesn't care.
Oh my God! Wow.
My daughter has a thing where she'll
great.
be like, I don't care. And she'll say it very abruptly. And sometimes I'll be like, you can't say that. You can't say you don't care about making your bed because you got to still do it. And she'll still do it. But Intel does not give a rat's you-know-what about this TSM news. 11% on Intel. This is almost like, it's like a squeeze relief rally everywhere, which would make me a little bit concerned as to why ARM is now only up 8% underneath the volume weighted average price. Why are we squeezing everywhere else? And these guys had a good report and they want to sell ARM. So if we continue to go, I'm a little skeptical here. I think ARM could be a nice like trend reversal play, but that doesn't make any sense to me. I would expect that ARM would be doing what the rest of the market is doing. Bit of a weird one. I know the handset was a problem, but
This was this is a problem for NVIDIA from the jump right there. I mean, we got it. Look at that 193.50 breaks. Now it's at 194.25, and we said that we had to get away from this if that was wind up happening. And there it goes, man. We tried it there at 193.50. We got a little bit of action back down to 193. The scalps would have worked fine. It was waiting for a bigger move down, but the market didn't. I still think NVIDIA is going to be a sell. I mean, compared to what Intel's doing, compared to what I'm going to say Marvell's probably up 10% right now. Yeah, I mean, ARM, same kind of way. We already talked about what ARM was doing. Oh, ARM's coming back in. Okay, so I don't know. I'm trying to find a short here, but maybe that was it right there at 194. I don't know. I don't want to play too hard short here because we've already lost on it. So it would be kind of foolish to say, oh my God, we got to just keep on hitting this over and over again until we eventually get stopped out. That's not the strategy. You know, you want to make sure that you put on the right trades at the right time. And right now, maybe this is finally came back into some pre-market levels there. But, you know, you can tell sort of when this name wants to go. Okay, there. I mean, they just start wiping levels. And I'm just, okay, well, now it's resumed doing that again. I thought it was giving it up a little bit there. But, yeah, we got to, here it comes again, 194.30, the day's high. We're going to stop out if it winds up, whoopsies, I put the wrong price. If it winds up taking that out, we wanted to get out. So let's get back in. 194.31's day high. We punched out there by accident. So we just punch right back in whenever that happens. Now let's wait to see if we do have a little bit of a downside play here in NVIDIA. But, yeah, it's not been a good one so far. on the short side of things. I mean, why the hell are we even going short, or why am I going short when this market is a ripper right now? Just surprised NVIDIA is not higher. I think that's maybe what the theory, what I'm trying to play off of, but it's been wrong. Apple, good little comeback there. We were wondering about that being down 2% while the market was ripping. Apple right now due for a pullback up, but I don't want to overthink everything, which I'm clearly doing right now. You just got to play with the momentum. If the market continues to go higher, you should just be long, and we got to find something that's dipping into some good long areas. NVIDIA seems to be a long for sure at this point, only up 2%, could go up more. So that's a dangerous short. Look at AMD, right? I mean, we've been happy getting out of our AMD, but right now, right back up to 480, like real quick, like right there for advanced micro devices. So an interesting look there as well in the chip space. So maybe we are going to get a little cooked up here on this NVIDIA. So let's take some more profit down here near that 193.90 and hope that we can get a lower bid, but for right now, or lower offer, but for right now, NVIDIA is really cooking to the upside again.
This is parabolic action.
Oh,
no questions asked.
DRAM.
I get to DRAM in a quick little second, and even the one thing that was holding out this entire time just ticked the top. If I get wicked out, the market's been strong enough that this hasn't really been as strong. I'm talking about SLV, so I can get back into it. But if it's breaking the high, I don't need it to go parabolic on me on the exit. We'll take another shot if it gets back underneath the pre-market lows. But DRAM, if you can see what's going on in, say, SanDisk and probably HK Hynix, this is a program buy, and this is now reminding me of the opposite of what Palantir did the other day. So it's going to be a reverse. At some point, I'm going to look for a reversion on the stock. It's more a matter of give me a topping tail candle, an obvious reversal to be able to take a shot. Because when you look under the hood at what's going on in the memory chip, remember how far they've been down? Like this is programmed by Micron, SanDisk, SK Hynix. They're all doing something very, very similar, and it is nasty, nasty breakaway upside. Still completely Oops, I just went to AMD instead of ARM. ARM's still losing the bid here. So maybe it just doesn't want to participate. Because that was my first look. Hey, if I can catch something breaking trend, bouncing VWAP that wants to join the move, that could be a bit of a play. So we'll have to wait on ARM. And just one more before we go back. And we have a super chat to get to as well. Starbucks still has no intention of breaking out. I'm going to slap the fail on Starbucks. Because the opening range, it's setting it up really well. Bottom tail, the dip level in the aftermarket, like there is a breakout set up here on Starbucks. It just doesn't want to go. Great quarter, but just because you had a great quarter doesn't mean the stock has to oblige us with a long.
Yeah, no, good look there. Yeah, and you never know what this market's going to give to you right now. We're going to switch off of NVIDIA and go over to Palantir. Right now. Like this is another one here. This is a 2-minute chart, obviously. We've bounced a little bit off that 200 period moving average. Let's see if we can get a little bit of money back here, chasing this short back to the downside. And like we said, it's already, I mean, we're not chasing anything right now. I mean, it got up to 123.50, so we are a little nervous hands about that one. We will try to see what's going on with Palantir, but it was beat up pretty good down into 120 there early, and now catching a bid. Like there's going to be a short at some point, but it's where is that short, and why are we still looking for it? Nasdaq up 3%. I feel like after yesterday, we weren't expecting this, especially with Warsh and what was going on there. But I just want to bring this up. We said that maybe there's going to be a short somewhere. This is now the high from yesterday. So yesterday's high right now is in. So, this could be a decent level to look off of. Yeah, Bloom Energy. Yeah, someone said, I saw that on the chat too about Bloom Energy, by the way. We can go over to Neil's screen in a second, but that TQQ and the NASDAQ right back to yesterday's high when we, dropped with the Fed. So, that could be an area that we're now looking for maybe a potential small little pullback there. But yeah, some of the beat up names. And there's another look there. IREN, thanks for asking us about
Bloom
that.
and IREN are both insane right now.
Yeah,
they're like the epicenter.
Why is IREN up 25%? Like some of these names. So is it a good short now? I mean, don't ask me. I've been getting hit on the shorts right now, but I think so. I just talked about that. I think the market might be at a spot where it needs to decide. But just because we're at yesterday's high doesn't mean that it's falling back in by any stretch of the imagination. It could still rip higher. We've seen the NASDAQ be up 3.5%, 4% before no problem. Well, not no problem, but yeah, 37. Here's IREN over the last couple of days. Well hit yesterday down to 28 bucks, back up to 36 and change. It looks like whoever sniffed that one out might be onto something. So good super chat there. $37 high for IREN. That was the close back on the 24th. So about a week ago, that's where IREN closed. So you could look at some 37 potential there for IREN. Good look on that one.
Yeah, before I get to, I did say on my note, had SMCI, I did jump into it. It still hasn't broken out some relative resistance. But like the screw face it a second ago was Bloom and IREN. Like those moves are just almost unprecedented. And you're filling in a major gap. If this has the wherewithal, I don't care what you are, but if this has the wherewithal to get to like 220 to 225, like this chop zone in here, that's like the mother of all reversions, but got to be able to stick to the plan. None of the dip buys came in. iBit never did. You can see what happened with Starbucks. Microsoft didn't give you any chance to buy the dip, which I was pretty convinced of. But SMCI, you're going to be hard pressed to find a chip stock that is not at a price that is higher than where it was 24 hours ago. This would be one of them. It might be up 9%, but if it's not through this 28.5, then to me, it's still structured that it can be a bit of a short. SpaceX, you know what? Probably should have taken another shot at SpaceX, but it just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. But it's reversing off of that 119, but higher lows being put in. So SpaceX is probably still very much along. We got some super chats to get to for sure. Nick W, best of luck, guys. Believe Microsoft is along until 460 swing trade wise, but believe the Qs is a short here, intraday 682 level. So yeah, Microsoft, as we said, liked it. I just
450.
You're so accustomed to gaps like this and dip buying or profit taking off of the open, and probably didn't give enough credence to how far Microsoft was down that we weren't going to get the normal pattern, which we obviously didn't get.
All we had to do was really just calm down and get off of NVIDIA. NVIDIA is now 196, by the way, and ripping. But we'll make some money back a little bit there. So we'll just hit some money bags there as we lost. A whole bunch of money came out of the account on NVIDIA, but some of it's floating a little back in here on Palantir with now 60 cents in the money. And we've been sort of taking some profit down here at 122. Let me take another piece out right now. And then we'll wait to see. I have another bid at 122. We've fallen right back into the 50-period moving average, but we are being supported right now by the 200, which we like a lot for longs down here. So we want to make sure that we do get some good coverage down here. I'm out of half already, and actually before we go to Adair, I'm going to punch out a little bit more here as we are starting to climb just a bit higher off of that again. Good level of 122. It seems like we've got a lot of support right here, right now. So if this market, there's 3% right now on the market. So it's going higher and higher and higher. I'm going to take out another piece now on Palantir and wait to see if we get 122. But this is really an exciting market today. That is for sure. For some more updates, let's go back over to the desk with Adara.
Yeah, I'm just hearing apparently Goldman Sachs Asset Management is launching an AI investing platform called Alpha AI. So that's pretty cool. What's also cool, especially if you're long, is this nice move up here in the market. We had these post-market lows of 726, currently trading near 739s. To take out yesterday's highs, you have to get all the way up to 743s in the SPY. So it's possible, but it has a little bit of legwork to do. Meanwhile, Nasdaq already above not just yesterday's highs, we're even above Tuesday's highs at this point, nearing Monday's high is still pretty far away, but at least Monday's consolidation high here of 683 could potentially be in reach. We had, of course, PCE data. 3 of the 4 prints came in line with estimates. One of the prints here, core PCE month over month, actually below estimates. So all in all, a good look here following yesterday's Fed decision, which was, as we expected, a rate hold. Another number we had at 8:32 that was pretty interesting was GDP, which came in a little bit cooler than expected at 1.5% versus 2% expected. Earnings. Biggest thing, I think, at top of mind today, you've got Microsoft to the upside. This thing beat EPS. It beat revenue. It had 43% year over year Azure cloud growth and guiding sales above estimates for Q1 2027. Meta, meanwhile, missing EPS estimates, beating on sales, and guiding tepid sales for Q3. Other names that reported last night or this morning and are experiencing earnings day ones, they include MasterCard. You've got Carvana. You have ARM, Qualcomm, and Robinhood. And then you also have AMZN and Apple. They're both reporting tonight alongside the likes of Rivian, Reddit, Roblox, and Coinbase. You can join us here at Trader TV Live for real-time coverage of these earnings plays. You've got Amazon at 4, Apple at 4:30, all the other names sometime in between. We're going to send you back up to Sean and Neil for more Trading Magic.
Trading Magic.
Thank you very much there, Adair. We have a bunch of super chats to get to. Just Jersey Mike's sell and balance. It's still pretty early. Under 1 million shares still. I mean, I can put it up sometimes and I'll show you guys. We're nowhere close to it, but it is a sell and balance, at least for now. One super chat from Krish. Check Amazon before earnings, hold or sell. I don't like before earnings plays and gambling on what it's going to be. My gut tells me that Microsoft was so good that they just made it really tough to beat, because Google had a great quarter. So Amazon's numbers are going to be good. There's no question about that. I see almost no chance that their cloud growth isn't going to be fantastic compared to when you see what Alphabet was able to do, when you see what Microsoft was able to do. But in this particular case, I think the comparison, it's going to be hard pressed to pull a Microsoft here. And that would be a little bit of a problem. And then you're rallying hard here in the overall market back into the 200-period moving average. It's going to be a tough one. Like, if this move continues, we're 3%. If we don't stop, then this could be sitting in the the high 230s if it goes a couple more points here. Then it makes it really tricky. So I want to see after earnings, because I think we solidified what we like about Microsoft, or what the market likes about Microsoft after the fact. Amazon, it's going to be a tough road to hoe, I believe, for them. Just for a quick second back into the trade. We got a topping tail wick on SMCI. So if I make the top wick on a stock that's on my list to short, then I'm going to jump back in. So we jump back into the short, 27.7, which is obviously the first level of support. I'm going to take bids and then looking for the volume weighted average price. That's where we want to be able to get to. And then going back over to where we were earlier, I probably, as I was doing that, I think I missed a bit of a curl, but it was at a random nothing level on SLV. The other place to look at SLV is where we reversed it yesterday. That's like a full % higher. But the way the market was going, it seemed like it was a possibility at the time. The next super chat is from Chain Reactor. Is there news on quantum stocks? If it's beat up, it's getting a rally. So I don't think there is news on them as far as I know. Almost every quantum stock you're looking at is up over 9% today. Well, relief rally across the board. So Rigetti, QBTS could be following along with that. I don't think we covered this one either. Margin call with the super chat. Is it Turkish?
Don't want to get margin call.
A-Lab. Astera Labs. Please comment. Earnings are next week. We get a lot of them. So Astera Labs.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
I know this is a lot happening right now. Hopefully, finally, we're getting a bit of a pullback. 13%. Well, again, if you've been beaten up in the last couple of months, the question you should be asking yourself isn't why is it up double digits? If it's not bouncing, that's a problem. Okay, so anything that's been in this, 50% retracement or anywhere that got into bear territory on any of these names, if they're not bouncing heavily this morning, that's a story. If they're bouncing with everything else, there's not really much to say. You're getting like an everything relief rally, right? And remember, it was also post-Fed too, where we tend to see some pretty solid moves. Another one?
I don't know. We'll look at it in a second. But yeah, you are right, man. TRHB there. Yeah, finally, our post 10 a.m. trade works out. And, we were able to get out of NVIDIA, obviously, as it just kept on ripping higher. But yeah, a bunch of shorts until it eventually took out the pre-market high. And that was like, okay, now we got to stop out. But, obviously bled it on the way back up. And then we finally just calmed down and, got into a position that we liked with Palantir. It's too bad because I should have got reloaded there a little bit, but we just missed it because I was at 80s. So, we have switched this now. I don't know if it's going to come back upside. I put it to 76s there, but it doesn't really matter. I was waiting for 80, so we missed that one, or else that would have been a good one there as well. MKTX. What MKTX? What is that?
That's
there?
who ICE is
Market
buying.
Access Holding.
ICE is Intercontinental Exchange is buying them for 167 cash.
Okay.
So you're wearing the ICE.
Yeah, I'm wearing the ICE.
Yeah.
Yeah. ICE is also purchasing stake in Katina and Wilson Capital. So, MKTS. Okay, so good look there. So good buyout. If you're looking for something else, nice move up. But obviously not based on the market, based on them being taken over. So good look there. I guess getting involved in the bond. I mean, you said market access. So I don't know enough about
I didn't read it,
but
I didn't read anything past its 167. It's supposed to close at the end of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
We had saw Robinhood, and I said, you want to say how bad Meta's been over the last couple of weeks. I mean, Robinhood down that 20% as well. And we thought that today there was going to be an opportunity for Robinhood to bounce a little bit because it started the day off real nice, up that 3 or 4%. And all of a sudden the market said, no, thank you to that one. It gets basically as high as the earnings call from yesterday or the earnings release, $93. I mean, we wicked that high right there, 92.60, and then it just fell. But at the good side of Robinhood right now is, well, first of all, it's coming back in. Let's see if it can hold. But it did hold 85 and change. It got to 86 and bounced. So that was quite a nice trade there for both ends of this, right? If you were short early, you had some great areas to get short, right? The pre-market levels, fantastic. And then you also had, if you were looking for longs and you were patient, which I need to get better at, then you found some longs right down into here based off of where we were yesterday. So there is, good opportunity there. The only thing is we bounced off of the 50. I don't really use the 50 as much as I used to there. It's more about the 200, and we didn't get quite there yet. So I think a short may start in Robinhood, as some people were asking there in the chat, around $90. I think could be something there for Robinhood as well. Thank you so much.
Captain Mike.
Randy, right there. I think we're getting a little bit of rain today, I feel like.
No.
Okay, good. All right, good. The rain starts this weekend, I think. It's Friday, maybe Friday, Saturday, right there. I'm going to be off tomorrow. You're going to have Joe in the seat. So I'm going to Ottawa for baseball. That's actually Canada, so just outside of Ottawa. There's 7 teams coming representing High Park. All of our rep teams will be there. And good luck to our 10s that are at the provincial championships right now. Last year we were lucky enough that our 12s went to BC and came close to representing Canada, but lost out to that British Columbia team. And now our 10s are looking to do that too. I think they're in Pembroke. Yeah, the Westies are the besties as far as baseball is concerned.
It wasn't always the case, but it is certainly.
Yeah, so we say good shout out there, and I'll see everybody in our nation's capital this weekend. So Joe will be here tomorrow. But we're going to we're in the dollar club right now. I mean, look, it sucks because I probably sent some people awry with NVIDIA, but we're definitely doing the work now on Palantir. So taking a little bit more profit. We just got filled right there at 50 again. So a bunch of good outs as we held a good amount of this trade back into the bottom. So far so good as we hopefully make moves lower on Palantir. I mean, the market's been such a gem there today. You would expect Meta to have gone, ham when the market went like that. Meta's right where it opened. So yeah, about that. I think if we're going to look short, as Neil mentioned, look for names that maybe are not participating in this rally today and then hit them the other way. So Meta. And then we do have JMKE.
Jets.
23. So really, JETS, Jets. Should be a little bit of a better year for them, but maybe not.
Can't be worse.
All right, there. Let's sort it by time. So there we go. We have, there it is right there, JMKE. Pretty small and doesn't seem to be so much interest yet building up. I mean, we'd like to see that 23 number change up there. So, that way it could be 23 and then me be involved. But for right now, I'd like to see that get to 25, 26 to see that there's a little bit more interest in Jersey Mike's than what they had planned for. Because if it's just going to go out at the same in between the range, wasn't it 21 to 25?
21 to 25.
Yeah,
it's
so
exactly
it's
in the middle.
Literally, like as our kids say, literally, it's going to be in the middle there. So that to me means it was probably priced right. So we're going to have to let the market open, and then we'll see where it goes from there. To take an opening print or to get super excited about that first little go, generally speaking, we've had to see that get a little more juicy than in line. So we'll wait to see if that does come through for JKME. And then again, another fill right here at 50s. I took 60s this time on Palantir. Let's hopefully it gets a little lower. I'm only in a third of this now. So we'll see if it comes back in. My next bid is 121.25 right into here. And then we'll wait to see if we break 121. But for right now, Palantir is enjoying a little bit of a pullback. And I'm going to take a sip of this coffee.
It is delicious for sure. I exited a VWAP on SMCI. So to me, a reversion trade is pretty much always, if it's blasting up and you get the curl, you wait for it, I'm pulling it back into the volume weighted average price. If there's a continuation, it's underneath, and underneath that resistance, like consolidate, maybe go lower. So that's what I'll look for next. While that was happening, did probably miss a chance at SLV, but hey, we found the one that was able to get us back into the green. SpaceX will be, yeah, that'll be a disappointment, because at the same time, like, it was the VWAP to the low play again on SpaceX, but the reversal was a chance through VWAP. I still think this stock is more of a short than anything else. And then just before we go back over, SoFi it got right to that 15.8, which is, I'm calling it a triple top, because it was also the opening range high yesterday after their earnings, but it hasn't really crested it yet. So it's more of a head and shoulders setup on SoFi. Ideally, it would do a topping tail candle and maybe trap some people on the breakout trade, and then that would be a reversal into VWAP. It's a $15 stock. That's only 20 cents from top to the volume weighted average price, just 1.5%. So you want to be finding an entry that risks less than 5, if that's the trade you're making. So I need to see that kind of an entry before I get in to this one. Let's go back to my left.
Yeah, guys, if you're looking for an offer, boy, do we have one right here for you. Markets, they've been extremely active lately. I think that's kind of an easy one to say today. For traders, of course, as you see Neil and I talking about all the opportunities that this does create. More moves means more setups, means more market changing opportunities for you as a trader. You need two things. That's discipline and, of course, access to capital. That's where Trade the Pool comes in. Instead of being limited by the size of your own account, traders can now access firm capital and focus on executing their strategy and managing risk. No more fear of blowing up your personal account. No more moving your stop loss too early because you're worried about your own savings. Go find out what that's all about. It's called limited risk trading over there at Trade the Pool. Go check them out. It's tradethepool.com. It's one word. And we've also got it really convenient for you, man. Scan that QR code right in front of you and get involved with Trade the Pool. We want to thank Mitch Hoke for coming earlier today to talk about some examples. And, you know, those guys over there, at Trade the Pool have, as he was saying, a few traders ready to go. And go check them out at Trade the Pool if you are looking for a funded account, and a few good opportunities over there with them. So we want to thank them for their continued sponsorship. All right, we've made back a little bit here, about half of what we've lost. If we were to cover this Palantir right now, we only have, like I said, a third left. I just took another bid again here at 50. It's not going lower, but I don't want to get any more out. I think our stop loss now, if we're wrong, we don't need to let this run all the way back up. We can clearly see that it potentially has found a bottom here in Palantir. So 122, we want to represent an out here around 122.20, where this 25 period moving average is. We've now started to turn this downside. If it does hold down here, which it's kind of looking like it will, which is why I'm getting more and more out. What's up, Sebastian? As we're getting more and more out, I think that we could wait for Palantir now and just put our stop right there. So let's cancel our initial stop up at 123. And we were just going to play off this level right there. We're lucky enough that it didn't go there. So, 122. What did I say? We want to follow this. That'll be probably at 122 by the time I'm there. Let's go 122.11, all right, for a stop out there on your 25 period moving average. I just want to make sure I do it right so I don't panic and put the wrong prices there. With that being said, I am going to we just held 40s. I'll put another bid right now at 40. I'm going to cancel the 25 fill and let this now fall down. I've taken a couple early outs that I didn't necessarily want to do here in the 40s and 50s. So now if it's going to work, let's wait for 121 flat. I know we're talking a lot about the same names here, but on my scanner, really nothing's hitting, because although the market has been pretty active, it now seems like it's trying to stabilize.
I got good news.
A little bit at yesterday's high. Yeah,
EFNS is catching
EFNS.
a bid. It is now halted after looking like a little bit of a disaster, halting down at the open. It's now halted up and back above yesterday, the afternoon highs from yesterday. So 75 it's halted at 75.69. The tap is exactly 75.69, so it's not indicating a higher open, but it is no longer looking like it's going to be depths of hell for them. In other ridiculous movement names, see, look at who needs small cappers when BE's up 28%, when DRAM's up 12%. So that last little pullback that we had, which will, like if you pick on BE, you would have got like, I don't know, $6 on a move that was 30. I converse that with maybe should not have. We'll see. There still could be a secondary trade. Like SMCI is still going lower, but then look at what's going on in the memory chip names. Instead of looking at them individually, DRAM probably tells enough of the story that you don't have to look at Micron, SK Hynix, or SNDK on their own. Should also note Samsung reported and had a fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was another
Samsung did report. It was very much like SK Hynix, where the growth was fantastic, but it somehow managed to not beat expectations. So they did miss slightly in terms of the expectations, but it was still a big time breakout. I just heard something about Jersey Mike's, but no change on Jersey Mike's. 1.4 million in the paired volume.
Still 23.
It's still 23, and it's still 300.
I just heard the guy go, it's indicated. He goes, expected 23, and then it sounded like he was looking it up, and he's like, yep, still 23. So, that might tell you everything you need to know right there.
I don't think I'm going to
you mentioned good news over there. We got a little bit of better good news right here. We'll finally do this for the first time right there. We got some money back on Palantir. It was a rough morning, obviously. Not rough, but with that video, we did take some hits. But excuse me, we just get that 20. I bid 20s this time. We cancel. Actually, we got 25s there on Palantir, and we didn't have the big, position out there because I did take it. I did take more out here in the 40s and 50s. So now there's a good fill right back into this level. So we're getting lighter and lighter on this right now. There's Jersey Mike's. I just wanted to show this to everybody. Still indicating $23. Maybe this opens quicker than we think. Here today, if they can get a stabilization in the price, and then slowly you'll start to see this 318. Like we'll keep it up, and if that 318 gets a little smaller, almost into zeros, and we can level it off. What this is trying to tell you is right now, there's only been 1.5 million shares like basically entered into this opening trade so far. And there's still 300,000 left over. So he's kind of just waiting to see if there is another taker here. And this is a neutral, so I don't know if it's a buy or a sell, but just they have 318,000 shares that they don't really know what to do with right now is my understanding of when I read this. So we're going to have to wait to see if Jersey Mike's and what price they wind up opening up at. I think we'll be able to tell by this 23. If this goes higher, then we at least know this is a buy. If this goes lower, then that means that there's a sell coming through. So let's give it a couple breaths with JMKE, and we'll have a look. I had to restart I realized why my charts weren't giving any opportunities. I think they were frozen from the scanner side of things. So I didn't have anything on there. And I looked over and I was like, Google is hitting on the scanner right now. And it's just right here. I don't think I prefer the long, but here's another name today that's down 1% in a market that's up 3% in a name that I absolutely love right at these values is Google. So maybe an interesting area here. We could be wrong about this, but what about if we take VWAP and hang out a little bit? I think we can have an opportunity to run back up to the 200 period, and then Google could make a decision what it wants to do. But it's strange that this is down. But is it really strange? We're going to go over to Adair, and I think, is it Sector Watch coming up? Small cap recap. Okay, so it won't be any of these names, but this is what's helping today, DRAM. And we had written it down as our best. We have only longs on here, DRAM, Qs, and IBIT. And that's when the market was up 2%, but nothing dipped. Okay, so we got to watch out for a dip there now that might be available. It doesn't seem like it, though. Let's go back over and talk about some of those small cap names with Adara.
Yeah, I can confirm no mega caps here, just these little small caps that are going to be on watch and of note. Xerox up first here, XRX. This name sharply to the upside. They posted a surprise EPS beat, likely. I think this one might have been due here to some IEPA tariffs that you also had, tariff benefits rather. You've got sales here, 1.922 billion, beating estimates of 1.901 billion, $482 million market cap, and a 33.5% short float. NUWE is up next year. This is Nuwellis. This is a name that has rallied in the past, still below that post-market high, but very, compared to where we closed yesterday, still up on the day. $1.7 million market cap, 360,000 share float for this one, and 32% short float, announcing the acceptance of their new single-center retrospective study in Frontiers in Pediatrics journal. So nice journalistic acknowledgement for them. Then you have T1 Energy. This name is near highs. This is preliminary earnings day 2. They reported preliminary earnings on Tuesday morning. Net loss here of $34 to $37 million. Adjusted EBITDA loss of 11.5 to 14.5 million. Again, this is not earnings day 1. It's prelim earnings day 2. And this is by far the largest market cap of this group. $1.2 billion market cap. 227 million share float. 227 million share float. Another name with a large short float, 21.5%. Back to you.
ARM just won't get going though.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Adara.
Thank you.
The Nasdaq is all the way back, by the way, to its highs again, up over 3% today on the Nasdaq. If you guys are watching us, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. We want to say a big shout out to everybody watching us there on TikTok, everybody watching us on Instagram, everybody watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much. And just keep on hitting the like and the subscribe, because if you do that, your stocks will most likely turn into winners. I mean, if you have DRAM today, that there it goes, $50.50, up 12.5% goes DRAM today. Wow, what goes bump in the night? DRAM. Definitely going bump in the night. A couple plays, and then we'll throw it back over. We can look at some small cap. That DFNS halted and about to open, just open back up. Actually, they're at 10.19. I know Adair was talking about it, but we had this at $95 in the pre-market, and back and forth and up and down right here for DFNS. So $75 or so. We'll have to wait to see if that winds up holding. But there's another name. And then so now we're almost $2 right now in the money. So Palantir has really traded well for us. Unfortunately, a few too many. I'm really happy with the outs. It's just too many right into here. But again, it looked like we were bouncing off those levels. And then we said, okay, let's hold out for a little bit. And we did do that. So we've been using less shares into here. But yeah, definitely looking like we got a break lower here on Palantir. The weak names are, yes, there it is. There's your $2 winner right there on PLTR. So that's a pretty good one. We'll put a bid there at 80s just to get a little bit more out. But we did a pretty good job of holding it. Could have always done better, but there it goes to the downside. We'll pat ourselves on the back for that one, at least, on Palantir. So, wow. Oh, man, just be patient, my guy, and everything changes. But you could see what happened to that NVIDIA. We were not very patient in this one, although I thought starting at 935 was okay. It was really just that I thought this name would sort of go the way of these other ones, like Google, like Palantir here, where it was starting off the day being weak. I just thought there was a chance that NVIDIA wouldn't be so well loved today, but obviously that was wrong. Up now 3.5%. So look, we'll just keep on this Palantir short, and then watch out for Microsoft having its largest day since 2008. All right, so that's absolutely huge right now. 18 years in the making, upside for Microsoft. Its largest day since 2008.
Can't be terribly
goes Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, considering what it went through to get to this point, it's impressive. Just thought there'd be a dip buy in Microsoft. We were looking at that DRAM. It was already up 10% from the pre-market lows to when we opened up, and still managed to go higher. Looking for a re-entry, kind of a bad wick out in SLV just now, but show it to you guys. And then we went back over to SoFi. So those are the two that I'm still looking at. Day 2 play on SoFi, top tail wick to 15.8. So jump back in at 77 and trying to grab what has been at least relatively weak with the metals. Here, because as the Nasdaq continues to go, it's going to full screen it here. Nasdaq is pressing back into obvious resistance at 28.2. So anything that's putting in lower highs or at a key price level, we want to try to grab. I do not want to have to chase this too far if I don't have to. So we'll try to take something in the 40s if we can. Leave the 50 offer in there, and then I'm going to go right back over to the first one that we like for the short. This is the difference. The reason I'm not going back to SoFi SMCI that worked is simple. Everything else is either already at the top and curling, or it's making the lower highs. If it's busting and going ham, don't need to be fighting that name. You already mentioned that DFNS, but I do want to show you guys DRAM. This is another one. Look at it break out. Can't fight those. These are pure squeeze mode. The only chance to me for an entry is when it does some kind of a crazy topping tail candle, or if you're dip buying, get the crest, and then get something like this for a breakout. You got to be pretty careful for sure. Uplift markets absolutely have seen lamb. I'll tell you, there's been like a cheat code when we make a poll on earnings. Whatever name the chat likes the least is probably the name that's going to do the best. Lamb got 2 votes. And one of them was a sympathy vote because I pointed out that no one was voting for Lamb. 2 votes. And it was like hundreds of votes were cast in that poll. At least, well, probably like 150, something like that. It was Microsoft was number 1 at 40%, I believe 33% for Meta, and 1% for Lamb. Great company. Is what it is. I think the more pressure gets put on ASML, I think one of the places people will start to look is like AMAT and Lamb will just look a little bit more interesting as ASML stays under pressure.
Okay, yeah, and like we were saying, man, not a horrible idea to fade some of those ideas sometimes, because we had that comment yesterday about, you know, when there's blood in the street, sometimes it's time to go in there and mop it up a little bit. And I mean, I think that that's probably true again here today with the Nasdaq, right? Everybody was really scared about potentially what could come of today, especially after how we closed yesterday, right? The Nasdaq was severely hit into the close, and it was like, okay, what's going to happen now? And then we got Meta, and then, you know, we had Microsoft, which was actually red off of their report, and now is best day since 2008. We've already talked about that. So some of these names definitely on the rebound here today, and I think it's just, I mean, the Nasdaq's up 3.27%. This is one of the best days in the history of the Nasdaq. You know, I mean, it's not going to be a top 10 day, but up 3.5%. I mean, for 3.25%, you're going to take that 10 times out of 10. I've now changed my stop because you got to keep on looking at your positions. I'm going to change it to 121.75. We're going to use VWAP now for Palantir because honestly, we don't have much left. I have under 10% left now of this name. And, you know, I thought we did well holding into this level to get that $1.30, $1.40. So we're just going to do that and now wait to see if we do get some sort of a pullback and then maybe reshort it if we get up to 123. But for right now, Palantir, obviously $2 in. So we'll watch out for that. Nat gas storage coming out soon. You can definitely have a look over there. We haven't even mentioned oil once. I'm not sure we mentioned it in the rundown. I'm not sure we mentioned it at all today.
There's not much to see.
Yeah, it's down 1% right now, so it's just doing what it's doing. And with nat gas coming through, it's not going to be a major effect on oil. But yeah, not much going on over here. So look left, not right for oil. Not doing much. And, you know, pull back into the 50-period moving average as we, of course, worry about summertime travel and whatnot. It's already August. Like tomorrow's the last day in July. So we're more than halfway through the summertime. And it seems like oil pretty steady based on what we're seeing in the southeast there, Middle East, market. So we'll have to wait to see if oil starts jumping around a little bit there. And then IBIT was a name that we both wanted to look at there today. It's not doing a whole heck of a lot there. IBIT 36.50 and holding out today on this spot.
That's a move.
J Mike right now still $23.
Yeah, boil natural gas. It just came out. Talk about a gap. It doesn't even show you the fills through the 20. So it like just gapped up a couple of points here on Boyle. I'm playing this. I've been playing this the other direction. Every time it breaks down, I'm just taking the short at 10:30, but it breaks to the upside this time. It's always the direction that you don't place a stop on that bad boy. But yeah, natural gas moves at 10:30 on Thursdays. Oil futures do absolutely nothing on Wednesdays. It's pretty simple. USO now cares about headlines more than anything else. I just saw Yannick ask, or maybe it's not a question, was that a real wick upside on Robinhood? This one looks real to me, but it's not very big. So it went up like $1.50 maybe, but that does look like it's very much real. Robinhood still, that's looking relatively weak. I mean, I'm back into SLV, which again, something making lower highs, which I like. Robinhood fits that bill even after their earnings. So, you know, it's one of those things where if it's not going with the market, that's probably the place you should be for the short. But yeah, definitely a good dark pool wick. Or a legitimate wick up there. I shouldn't say a good dark pool wick, because I don't know if it was dark pool, but a legitimate wick there on Robinhood. DRAM still going absolutely ham. No topping tails, nothing. Still all green. The 51 was that was pretty clean to see that topping tail close underneath because it comes back under 50, but you really only got 1% of a pullback on this sucker. Like if you're looking for any technical levels on here, it's nothing till we get to 51.5. So if you probably don't remember, but I do, because was long this day into 51.50, and if it was a good reversion that failed there back on the 27th, like this feels like forever ago, that was Monday, that's the level I got lined up on DRAM. Again, it was a pretty big reversal that stalled out at that same price, but you're seeing these names absolutely blast. You're now within a 1% of that level. DRAM's leading the way big time.
All right. DRAM is a monster today, as many of those names going. DFS just went hard right there again. So, we just popped off 70 there, up to 83 or so, just touching out at VWAP, which is $83. So watch out here for DFS, another small cap name that's been around for a minute and just keeps on extending higher. The high today looks like 107 touched off right there in the pre-market where no halts are happening. DFS right now looking to take out VWAP and get a little bit above these levels. I mean, a take of 83 and then boom style to the upside there for DFNS. Good little looking trade there for sure. Some of the other names that reported today that really aren't going too much. I mean, Qualcomm was down on earnings. I can't remember the exact percentage, but let's just say we're down 7 or 8% there on Qualcomm. Nice battle back, only down 3 now, looking to take out the highs. This is an interesting level to break, right? This 152. We still got a little bit of work to go before we get to there, but this is the pre-market highs that we've bounced off of a couple times. So if you think this market's a little too extended, potentially a short right into there for Qualcomm, but I like to think that there's actually a little bit more get up in this name and could start to join the party if we do take down 152, but a good little looker there in Qualcomm so far today. JP Morgan just flashed a little bit here. Why did it do that? Okay, day's high again for JP Morgan, up 1.2%. So you mentioned that wick there on Robinhood. A couple else, this just halted, nothing going on there. FIEE was a runner from a few days ago, maybe even yesterday. That got 370 down to $3 there. FIEE moving around there today. Just looking, IBIT still doing nothing, 64.8. And then JMKE, Jersey Mike's, still everyone talking about it. Still 23 tap. If we open up this, there it is right there. So it's still 318. Like this is really weird to me. Like we've on the Nasdaq the last few, Cerebras, SpaceX. I don't know what we missed a couple. There was a Quantinuum was
SK
there.
Hynix doesn't really count.
SK Hynix, yeah, they were all on the Nasdaq, but it's just like I don't understand why this number is not moving around, and neither is this number. I mean, we keep on hearing about Jersey Mike's in our ear, and there is some interest in it.
That makes me think it's not opening anytime soon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So there's something going on there with it, or maybe it's sort of at equilibrium, and it will open at $23 at any time right now. I mean, that's also another good strong possibility. But we are trying to cover this for you. It's just for right now, no actionable trades on JMKE, TQs, IBIT, SoFi we wanted to look at, but that was already through, right? So yeah, so that's already gone. The dip buy there, I wrote down 15, right away off the jump, it was 15.30, but SoFi looking to retrace a little bit from yesterday's lows. And I mean, yesterday we got into a good swing level, right? I mean, this $15, great opportunity to swing trade that, especially on earnings. Give a little kitchen sink down there from 17 to 15 yesterday. And then back upside, we'll see if we can break through 19 as it looks like SoFi trying to catch a little bit of a bid right now, trying to get through 16. As we said, this is going to look very, very interesting today. The energy space all down. No surprise there. We talked about what oil wasn't really looking too amazing here today. But look at this. Microsoft right in the middle there. 15% off earnings, like absolutely rocket ship right there. Amazon catching a bid because of AWS, expecting a decent number there today. Meta's at the day's low, down 9 in a bid as well. Surprised that Google didn't catch a little bit of that. We already know that Google's cloud is strong, but surprised it's down 1.19%. I would have thought with Microsoft being there that this would have had a 2 or 3 in front of the decimal place at least, but that's not the case. And then everybody's darling stocks just continue to be that way today anyways. Intel, man, we talked about trying to buy the dips in some of these names. They're there today. Up 15% for Intel. Like that.
It's going to be at 100.
Yeah, if Intel hadn't gone through like destruction down to 20 and then a move higher, this would be like close to one of the record days potentially for Intel as well. I mean, that's just a huge move for them. AMD, wow, back up to the bright side of things, we were just saying yesterday how happy we were to get out at an average price. We still have some shares, but at 520, now back to 497 is AMD. That's really ripping up. Look at SanDisk up there, up 25%. SanDisk as well. My boy Marvell up 12% today. Today's a good day to check the account. Yesterday, not so much. But if you're a
Look at Dell.
Yeah, if you're a big shareholder, yeah, we talked about Dell being down 14% the other day, all the way back. Apple today, though, as one of the largest holdings that I have, down 2.5%. Don't tell Sharif about that one, as he holds, I think he said his only two stocks is Apple and ASML. A little bit of a rough week, but Apple was just at all-time highs. So let's take the opportunity to maybe buy some.
Who likes Bloom then?
Bloom. He still has some Bloom, but he always.
Yeah, that's who.
Yeah, I think he must be. I don't know what's going on
That's
there.
30%.
We'll let Sharif answer those questions. I just know that he mentioned the other day about Apple, and he mentioned the other day about ASML. So, but he does have Bloom, and I think he has FCell as well. But he calls those swing trades, I think. So.
If there's anything that is somewhat not perplexing, but is standing out more and more like a sore thumb, it's the selling at in the 244 range here on ARM. Like, what is it? It just won't go. Like, this is yesterday's open price, and then it was also we'll call it the Fed highs, right around 240. It just can't seem to break it. Like, the market is, we haven't seen this is the biggest update in the Nasdaq, at least according to ChatGPT. I looked it up. Since 2023. So it's been 3 years. And a stock that had good earnings is reversing and not showing any signs of strength. So it is what it is. And someone was asking this morning, they were like, oh, well, how come you didn't run any longs? Well, I mean, nothing set up that I liked or gave you the dip buys that I liked. So I had idea for short on silver, kind of more up here. But every single time it fails to make a fresh high, like it's one of the things not breaking out. So I want to keep giving it shots underneath. One of the plays that we did like for the long side, obviously you were never going to get a chance to, if you were looking for dip buy on Microsoft, there was only one trade on Microsoft. It was a breakout. That was it. If you weren't taking the break, there was nothing else to be had. SpaceX to me was still a look for the short, and I actually will maintain I'll still be looking for the short on SpaceX. It's just a matter of now it's underneath VWAP. We took the VWAP short before. Now it's breaking down. It's relatively weak, so you got to look for that. DRAM, I'm not chasing an 11% move, and you wait for specific levels. Well, the only level I had with this gap fill to 51.5. And when it gets up there, I'm going to look for a trend break on DRAM. It's pretty simple. We do have some super chats to get to. Let's throw them up if we can. Andre, are we over there? I'm not on the page. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I wasn't on the right page. XKR. The market thinks of Apple as a non-innovative safe bet that can't do AI. I think a lot of what's been going on with Apple is not that they can't do AI, it's that they're choosing to participate in a different way. They're choosing to participate by saying, well, you're going to have to run everything on our devices, and everyone's going to utilize it that way. So why are we going to bother to spend oodles of money? You know, we'll just let everybody else do that, and we'll sort of ride the wave. And that is meant for Apple. That in times when everyone's concerned about all the capex spend and they're beating up memories at the tops, and you know, Mag 7 are spending like drunken sailors, Apple maintains some strength. On days like today when we get a relief rally, the reverse then ends up being true, and then Apple ends up to the downside. I don't think it's a can't. I think it's just a little bit more nuance than that. It's just a different approach, which is benefiting them in this big time pullback. It was benefiting them along the way. But then when you get this day, Apple goes the other direction because they're selling this to go into some other place, which is fine. I think that still bodes well for Apple, and I would still be looking. You know, I think Apple is a hold, and nothing about today changes that. If anything, it strengthens the thesis that it's a nice, safe place and a safe haven.
Yeah, I mean, Apple is the forever hold. That is for sure. Look, I just paid for some shorts there in SpaceX. Obviously, it's dirt cheap. It's next to nothing here. But I don't necessarily want to go short. I was just thinking, actually, of a dip buy opportunity there off the 200 period moving average. I want to give it a little bit more room. I was going to give it to 115, and it just dipped into 115.60 there. So a good hold there. I don't know if I like it. It's sort of in between right here. So, if we did get, I kind of like the long off these lows. We had seen 110 hold out for SpaceX, and look, it's not rocket science. You are now just trading 1, 2. I guess it can come after hours. So it's Tuesday when SpaceX comes. You got 3 more trading days of SpaceX until the lockup, right? Where you're going to unleash 7% after earnings. So the earnings play is Tuesday night, and then I guess it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning. You're going to get a new tranche of shares where people are going to be allowed to sell it. But the market knows that, and SpaceX over the last couple of days has caught bids at levels. So, interesting to see what winds up happening there with SpaceX. Before we go over to Adara, just another quick look at JMKE. Still that 318.2 there. It's almost like this is frozen, but the market time keeps updating. So this is legit. Still $23 right there. Not getting much action on Jersey Mike yet. Hopefully something can come of it, and we'll be able to trade around JMKE here today. CMG had a good report last night. So, you've seen McDonald's, Chipotle coming through. There's up 11% right there, taking out some highs, as they don't talk about that lettuce or anything like that, which I think was part of the concern there with Chipotle, hoping that would be over with now. So they didn't mention it, so I'm guessing that it's all good over there, but that's Chipotle right now up 11%. All right, let's go back up to the desk here with Adara. It's already 10:43.
Time flies when you're having fun, but you might not be having fun in this market if you are long things that are not big tech. Good health tech sharply to the downside, led by declines in J&J and Eli Lilly. Consumer services sharply to the downside. Energy minerals red, health services red, utilities red. Consumer non-durables red, led by a 7.5% decline in earnings day one play. Altria, MO. Transportation red, commercial services red, distribution red. Finance actually kind of mixed. You've got a smattering of green here with JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and MA bouncing after generally being weak yesterday, but a lot of the other names of the sector are going to be red. Let's get into tech. Producer manufacturing and some of the AI-related plays here are doing quite well. LRCX up a whopping 23% on earnings day one. AMAT hot in its tail, down about up about 16%. Sorry. You've got Caterpillar and GEV also to the upside. Tech service is going to be really mixed. You've got Microsoft down 9% in earnings day. Microsoft up 15% in earnings day one. Meta down 9% in earnings day one. Netflix, Adobe, Accenture, ServiceNow also pulling back from recent strength. But then you've got Oracle up 7% and expanded Google partnership. Meanwhile, electronic technology, with the exception of Apple, which reports earnings tonight, doing pretty well. Tale of two cities, though, because the other big mix of an earnings report tonight is going to be Amazon, actually to the upside, and the only green name in retail trade. Back to you.
Thank you very much, George. I was just eating cantaloupe, though. We'll finish that.
Pretty tasty around here.
They are very tasty. DRAM broke the trend line from the open. So once it broke the trend line, jumped in on the next bar break. It just immediately, see that prior high here? Goes right into that prior high and then catches a bit of a bid. So I jumped on the bid the second so I could get a bit of a fill. We're gonna, if we break underneath that 50-40 and then end up in this range, then I would tighten the stop to the wick high here, but for now it's the prior bar out, which is that 51 that we're going to take. So we're waiting for this level. It was a big one the other day when the market was tanking. On Monday, when the market, is that Monday? Yeah, that's Monday. Mm-hmm. On Monday when the market was tanking, whatever. Tuesday. Doesn't make a difference. At 51.5, so that's the way we looked for the short. Now we're here. Let's see if it follows through. And I hate to say this because initially I was looking for longs in IBIT, but the market's topping out and IBIT is cresting underneath the volume weighted average price. This is around the time of day I like VWAP. And this is looking like it's not looking like a long, it's looking like a VWAP short. So you can want it to be one thing, but it's the other way.
All right. NVIDIA, we're here now, buddy. So let's go. Let's see what winds up happening. We're back into NVIDIA right here. As the market, my friend, up 3% today. There's NVIDIA, so we're in the short again. We're 50 cents in the money on this one. We just waited for a little bit of a turn up there. Not a bad root vegetable, a turnip. But yeah, right into there, turn up down right there. So there it is. There's the curve down. And there we are. We're now 70 cents in the money. So that was a good idea. We are now $1 in the money. So that was a good idea. As NVIDIA now starting to pay dirt just a little bit as we get into the downside right now for NVDA, and boom, shagalaga. You guys are 100% right. I want to thank everybody in the chat for all the love, man. If we just start our trading every day a little bit later than we do, I think we'd have a lot more success. So patience, very, very key. And if you're watching the show, I think that's obviously something that we try to preach. And, you know, the way we trade is going to be different than the way you guys trade. But if it's not, I think you got to be a little bit more patient, especially when the market's doing these kind of moves. You never know what the morning is going to bring. We did get I don't think we got sloppy on NVIDIA. I mean, it's just that little punch right there started me in my mental space of short, and then we kept on shorting it. And remember, we kept on getting out thinking like, this is not going to go, this is not going to go. And then eventually it went. So the spidey senses were going off on NVIDIA, but we still tried it too many times there at that 194. And then eventually it took out the top, and that's where we got out, which was a good one. But now it's falling back in. So, you know, our day becomes much more reasonable around here now on NVIDIA, and then the $1.70 in the money that Palantir just printed us at 121 as well. So we only have three trades today, basically. The short early on NVIDIA, the short late on NVIDIA, and then the only play on Palantir for me today was that short. So, you know, coming right back into a pocket now. And, you know, I've already said it in the chat, you know, I'll be red today, but at least, you know, it's well in the pocket of what we make on what we lose. So I think that's something that's very, very important. And, you know, shout out to everybody and it sucks to be red, obviously, on a day where the Nasdaq's up 3%. But, you know, again, unless you're, the problem is I wrote down all the longs on here. It's just, you know, they didn't dip, and I was looking for a dip, and all they did was rip. So nothing happening there. But now we look over and we're $3 in the money on these two positions. So we're starting to have a little bit better feels today about our positioning and everything like that. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to wait to see if NVIDIA can come back into the downside here. But yeah, $1 in on NVIDIA, $2 in on Palantir, and I'm sure your DRAM. I mean, now the market's starting to pull back in. So
it's starting to come back.
Hopefully we can get to Greensville here.
Gold is also starting to come back. I want to shout out to Ahmed's vlog over there in TikTok. You were asking about gold specifically. GLD, remember, gold is a great place to look for activity on a Fed day. For obvious reasons, US dollar is going to move around, so gold's going to move around a little bit here. But it's that wick high that it put in at 2 o'clock, or after 2 o'clock, I should say, on the Fed after we had, I almost wanted to say Powell on the podium, but it's not. Of course, it's Warsh. So that's triple top. So once, twice, and now thrice with a little bit of a lower high. So yeah, it is weak relative to the market in some sense because you are rejecting that top on GLD. Of course, this is not spot gold. GLD is an ETF that we want to be able to respect. The new thing I'm in is not actually gold. It is crypto, and it is very different. It's similar in the fact that I'm utilizing where it is off of the, we'll call it the Fed levels, but it was a false breakout and now underneath VWAP. It's just a setup that I like. So false breakout, short underneath the volume weighted average price, and then DRAM, which a second ago was giving you that bid, it's now trying to come up and crest that high. I'm not giving it to the high of the day. I'm giving it to the prior bar at 51, which saves about 30 cents. And it's not quite at the level that I'm targeting for that short. There's still one potential press up till it gets into this resistance at 51.5. And then you also have to remember, you look under the hood here to keep in mind, like Micron's pulling back a little bit better. SNDK as well is worth looking at here. And when you look under the hood, is holding things up a little bit. So SNDK's relative strength, and I haven't looked at SK Hynix, probably the same thing, is kind of holding this move up just a little bit. So I want to see this. If it presses through the bid, that's a good place to add on DRAM. You always want to look underneath that hood when you're trading those ETFs.
All right. Yeah, guys, let us know in the chat if you guys are green or red. You can just put your ones or twos, even just rate directly in the chat on a day like today, up 3% in the Nasdaq. I think our portfolios are, but how are you guys doing day trading wise. Always interested to see what that looks like there. What's up, Sharif? Sharif's got the red shirt on today. It's funny because when I saw Sharif today, I said what's up to him, and he was commented on the red shirt, and then the market's up huge for green. So maybe we got to get Sharif to wear red a little more often. It's kind of like that tie thing with Powell coming there. But yeah, up 3% in the Nasdaq today, and just some huge moves. That Bloom Energy, as Sharif steps back in, what a mover today on Bloom. I mean, that name now up 27% and just going nuts right there. Look, it looks like there's a lot of mixed reaction over here today. A lot of greens, a lot more greens. Zeros is a good idea. Yeah, man, 27%.
Talking about Bloom, right?
Right there. IREN and Bloom going as well. I've already told you right there if I'm green or red today, so I'll just do it right here. I am red, so that would be a 2 right into there. Yeah, that's what I am there, but we're going to see if we can make it back. We're in a good short here with NVIDIA and with Palantir, but red for me today, and no problem, obviously, discussing that. As I said, I think we've talked about it, man. Just be red. Around the same that when you're green, you're up $200. When you're red, you're down $200. Something like that is what you're trying to think about. But hey, man, today, and it's still early. It's only 10:52 right now. So let's go back over to Adara for money talks, and then we have a couple more minutes. Unfortunately, there's not too much halting around right now. DFS is just kind of doing its own thing at $82 right there, and some low cap names just not moving. And Jersey Mike still tapping 23 with not much action at all. Oh, there it is. It actually got lower right now. So now it's a sell. So we're getting close there on JMKE. Same price, but the size is whittling away as NVIDIA going lower now, Palantir going lower, and Adara back at the desk.
Let's take a look here at the U.S. dollar. It's on its third straight daily decline. Now, as you can see, sharp drop here yesterday on the FOMC interest rate decision. As we know, Treasury yield sitting that 19-year high. And then we had today, though, a sharp decline. This could at least partially have to do with the JPY USD spiking. Since it's JPY USD, we're expecting that there could have been some intervention here, and that's why you have the spike in the JPY. But anyways, it is negatively impacting the U.S. dollar. And speaking of, international relationships, I'm actually just hearing from Chinese media outlet Xinhua that China's vice premier, he held a video call with U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. Let's take a look here at some of the economic data that we had today. Now, let's start with this top row, the most important data here. PCE, all in line with estimates, but for one print, which actually was cooler than expected. You got core PCE month-over-month 0.1%, below estimates of 0.2%, and the prior print of 0.3%. All of the other prints here, so PCE month-over-month and year-over-year, and core year-over-year PCE, those were all in line with estimates, but still cooler than the prior print. So this is a well-received report. We actually had the economic advisor for the White House, Kevin Hassett, saying that he thinks Kevin Warsh will have data to do the right thing, more or less, on these numbers, implying that we know they want there to be some cuts. GDP also worth noting here, this was cooler than expected, 1.5%. I was seeing estimates of anywhere from 1.8 to 2%, so below estimates either way. And we're also coming off of yesterday's dissenting vote. We had a brief break from dissenting votes in the June meeting, which was 12-0 for holding rates. This time we held rates again, but 3 Feds dissented in favor of a hike. Those Feds were Logan, Hammock, and Kashkari. Here's a look here at the FOMC predictions here with the CME FedWatch tool for that September 16th meeting. 40% of participants expecting a hold, 60% expecting a 25 basis point hike. Back to you.
Thank you, Adara. Yeah, that's one thing we didn't. Well, I looked at it, but we didn't show you guys in the pre-market. Go out to the end of the year and see what's actually going on with the predictions for the Fed, and whether they raise rates or not, the whittling of the balance sheet is going to be a thing. That's what Warsh already told us. The bond vigilantes didn't seem to hesitate at all driving. TLT was down like a bajillion in the afternoon. It was absolutely ridiculous. So the long end of the curve with crazy action for sure. Well, this is the put up or shut up area for DRAM, because if it can't bust here, this was the topping tail at 50. This is where it broke out on volume. It's take this and get to VWAP, or the buyers emerge on a strong stock at that 50 level. So I got to be able to respect it. If it's going to hold here, I don't want it getting past 50.40. So this is where the trail comes in, and I don't want it getting back into the top. So again, just for myself, the trail goes in. So if it breaks back above this level here, I'm going to be jumping out. But we're looking to hold through a breakdown of the 50 level. Once you're underneath 50, I'd reevaluate it. IBIT's a bit of a different story. I just want to take you through again. IBIT's just short underneath the volume weighted average price. So it'll be half out if it breaks VWAP. If we start filling in the gap on this stock, there really aren't any obvious levels except for 36 1/3, which was VWAP in the afternoon. You know, the bigger levels on the gap fill are much lower. So it's pre-market lows. I gotta have another bid in front of the 50s, and then we'll go from there. So, you know, it's been a case of the shorts have worked if you have extreme patience, but you just have to be a little bit picky. Like I didn't go back to SMCI, which was probably a mistake. I did go back to SLV and then went red on SLV because the levels aren't very clean. So I'm going to stay away from that one for a while. And then what was the other one there we were talking about? It was SoFi. Like SoFi level I like, but it's still pressing higher off of that 15.8, right? So 0 for 2 on SoFi, but it's still going higher. It's not indicating anything is a short for me on that stock. But DRAM, this is the one you got to be careful for. I can see how it's bouncing off that 50 level. It just feels like this is a listen to myself, hold Bybit, just take the scalp trade on DRAM and hold on to IBIT because its structure is saying it's weaker. Right, like this one is just a weaker stock. If the market pulls back, I can see all the reason why this can cascade to the downside and then look for another opportunity. You just go from one to the next, and just try to make sure the risk to reward in individual trades bears out. Everyone has a different approach to how they evaluate and look at trades. To me, I look at it in this particular way. On any individual trade, if you take that trade 10 times, what's it going to look like for you? So if you take this short and risk 5 cents, then are you trading it well enough that if I take that trade 10 times and it doesn't work I'm still positive. That's the way I like to look at it here. So I want to make sure that my executions are not getting out too much at the beginning, have the good risk to reward, tight enough stop if I have to. If you give it enough room, then make sure it has enough upside. Like with DRAM here, I think it had a lot of potential, so we're giving it more room, but the buyers just emerged off 50. So tighten the stop and then tighten the expectation at the same time. Before we go back over, I just want to throw one thing up here. I know it's almost 11 o'clock. I'm going to find a way to get the bracket orders working on Boyle because every single time at 10:30, it has given you an unbelievable breakout trade, and it hasn't really mattered what direction. Thursday at 10:30, when nat gas numbers come out, it settles into a range. I can't zoom up far enough on a 3-minute to show you, but it settles into a range, and this is 10:30, breaks the low, which is what I was looking for, and I think there would have been plenty of opportunity, but look at how clean the break is. Clean break, and then it's just a continuation play through 20. And it does this, I think it's about 6 weeks in a row from what I found, where you're getting at least the day's range on a single candle. But you have to be willing to take the break in either direction, and then you try to get a fill. I only got a fill once to the short side 2 weeks ago. So that's one that I want to put in the pocket. But you need a bracket order. You can't just guess at which direction it's going to go, because if I guess short and it goes up, I don't even take the trade.
All right, so with only 5 seconds left, thank you to everybody for joining us there today. We've just gotten some great fills down there, man. We were $4 in the money not too long ago. Their Palantir we just got out at 120.80. Took another one at 121. NVDA, man, it's not a revenge trade, but damn, it feels good to have that one back through there. And got a bid there on VWAP. So, yeah, Jersey Mike's right now not doing a whole heck of a lot, just hovering around, still $23. Getting lower, though, right now only 16,000. So there is a good chance that JMKE opens up pretty soon, I would say. Right now, JMKE, get ready, no problem. Get ready for this on the midday show. So yeah, look, it's been a minute here today, and now the market's trying to fall back in. So we definitely like what we're seeing right here, right now. Hold those shorts if you got them, baby, and we'll see you, and we'll be green by the time we get back to you guys. It's 11:01. Thank you so much for everything. Stay tuned. It's the midday show right about now. Ciao.